Intellectual blue balls. Hey, folks. This is Brenton Lengel here, anarchist, playwright, author of Snow White Zombie Apocalypse and Darude Shadow of the People, which I'm actually really excited because the Kickstarter for Darude issue 2 is about ready to come out, and the book is really, really good. Anyway, I am sitting here waiting for Bobby. Largely because, I said I was going to start streaming at 9:30, and I started streaming at 9:30 because, like, when I say I'm going to do something, I effing do it. For those of you who are wondering, I was supposed to have a debate tonight with a guy by the name of Haas Infrared about the presence of leftist grooming in academia and the larger society. And I was ready for it. Had my research done, had my opening statement written, was timing it out to make sure that it fit within, the milieu and the format of modern day debate. But yeah, so Haas, it seems, was busy or for whatever reason ducked out. I'm not going to speculate about that too much, though I will say that this is the second time he has dropped a debate at the last minute. The first one we were supposed to debate. We were supposed to debate Stefan Molyneux, noted egg enthusiast. And when Haas didn't want to do it, I had to go find a Trotskyist to partner with. But yeah, I hope that whatever's going on, it isn't too serious, because I really, I'm chomping at the bit to do this debate. And hey, Jempt, welcome. So while I'm waiting for this, has James blackmailed you into a flat earth debate? He has not. James has pitched a lot of debates at me that I'm like, I think he tried to get me into an Illuminati debate, but that is just so fucking ridiculous that I, even with me being who I am, I'm going to have some issues, just because I do not want to put myself in that headspace and do the research necessary to deal with some, particularly crazy people. Progressive American, why did Haas drop? I have no idea. He said he was going to do it, I assume, if he had told James. It seems like his Twitter is currently banned or restricted, so maybe he got kicked off of social media, though he still would have been able to come on as part of the debate, and probably could have gotten some additional attention on that ban. So I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. So anyway, all of this I'm looking forward to talking over with Bobby. Bobby, of course, my co-host, U.S. combat veteran and host of the Mustache Mafia podcast. And also, Bobby is a boxer. So both of us are martial artists. Bobby, former Golden Glove. I, as you guys may know, if you've followed up on your Brenton Lengel lore, am a Shodan in Kyokushin Karate. I really love Kyokushin. I miss it too. I need to get back to training. I fell off for a little while during COVID because I couldn't risk going into a dojo and getting something. Aha! And Bobby is here.
Yes. Oh, wow. You were already live. I feel a little bad now.
Yeah. No, it's all right. I wanted to make sure because I said I was going to start streaming at 9 because I'm a fucking professional.
Oh, okay. Unlike some people.
I'm there.
Yeah. I'm 4 minutes 20. I'll drop in. I'm 4 minutes late. I'll drop and give you 10 after this for every minute I was late.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So Bobby, as I was talking, I was supposed to have a debate tonight with Haas. He didn't show up for whatever reason, and
because he's scared.
Yeah, I won't say one way or the other, but that's a definite possibility.
He's shook.
I don't know. I was actually planning to be pretty nice, unless he decided to be a dick first, or yeah. But Yeah, who knows what the hell's going on? It seems like he's been banned from Twitter, so maybe there's some sort of social media blackout going on. But if that was true, I would have showed up for the debate, because obviously then I'm getting back on social media and can tell people.
Yeah. Well, the little tanky love fest is supposed to be starting up again, I heard too. So maybe he's busy with that.
Tanky Love Fest?
The thing that we're doing in New York, apparently that's going to be a thing again.
Oh, what thing were they doing in New
The
York? About
political innovation or whatever.
Oh, the CPI.
Yeah.
I didn't think the CPI actually went away.
Did it not? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I think Caleb he just put out that he's going to be telling his side of the story, tomorrow at 5. So that'll be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's I'll tell you, it'll be very interesting if the entire bread tube loses its collective mind or not. That'll be, yeah. But anyway, so the debate was going to be on it was the same debate that I'd done earlier with JF Garipe, neo-Nazi and literally funded by Jeffrey Epstein, disgraced former scientist. And I haven't uploaded that yet, but that's just because I'm incredibly lazy. And did you watch all of that debate or part of it?
I did, but that was like a few weeks ago. And as much as I like you, buddy, I don't commit Nazi stuff to memory on purpose as a defense mechanism usually.
I don't blame you. That was the dumbest fucking debate I think I've done. I loved the moment in it, and I'm going to put this out, and I may even clip it, when JF is sitting there and he's like, okay, all of these states, all these red states have fewer gay people than blue states, so clearly the blue states are making people gay. And he shows this map, and I'm like, what's the source on the map? He's like, I made it last night.
Oh my god! I mean, it's also easily debunked because red states, and I live in one, are typically less welcoming to LGBTQ people, so they tend to stay in the closet a little more. So the idea that there's fewer gay people in red states is as absurd as when Putin was saying, "Oh, there are no gay people in Russia," we don't do that here. And no, dude,
there are gay people. They're just hiding.
Yeah, because you're sending literal Cossacks with whips out into the streets, which is mildly kind of homoerotic a little bit. Like a dude in a big uniform with a leather whip, disciplining people.
Yeah, I can see that.
Little weird. Yeah. So you're gonna debate him about anarchism versus I guess his flavor of Marxist Leninism?
That would have been awesome. I would love to do that.
That was the thumbnail that you sent me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. The thumbnail's that because James had me originally in the thumbnail. It was leftist versus tanky, and since I don't really consider myself a leftist, I was just like, no, change it to anarchist. But no, we were going to debate about the same subject, which was going to be about is the left trying to indoctrinate children to make them gay or trans or something.
Jesus Christ.
I had watched a stream of his to prepare, in which he actually said and clarified that he was not joking, that he thought that if Hitler had been alive today, he would be trans and would be trying to genocide, I guess, all of the supposedly straight cis Muslims or something. And I was just
aside from the fact that that's absurd on its face, the first books that the Nazi Party burned, and the first institution that the Nazi Party set on fire, literally, but closed down, was the Institute for Sexual Research. And the books they were burning were about human sexuality, and a lot of them were about being transgender, such as it was in the 1920s in Germany. But still, so it's it says something, and this is just my opinion. This is not Brenton's opinion, so he might not co-sign this, and I don't blame him for not. But it says something that a quote unquote leftist is taking an identical position to a neo-Nazi. And that's not me saying horseshoe theory is a thing. That's me saying that I don't believe that gentleman is a leftist, personally, and I don't think that any movement that I'm a part of would have a place for the beliefs that he espouses. I mean, I'm just a filthy social democrat, though, so what do I know?
Yeah. Well, I'll get into that in just a second, but
Yeah,
I
of
wanted this
course.
jumped. I got reprimanded in MDD chat during JF debate for saying he was a pedo for kidnapping that girl.
Jesus
And
Christ.
yet everyone was calling you a pedo groomer during the whole debate. Double standard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's really, that could be very easily just modern day debate moderators being incompetent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who he brings on to moderate most chats. I know that there have been, that community is heavily reactionary.
And the volume of chats is like significant too, so stuff probably like gets through.
Yeah. So I'm not going to say that they're going through that. I mean, that chat again, like that chat is just a bunch of absolute blithering mouth breathers. Like it's flat earthers, creationists, and new atheists. Like they're always just going to take the side of whoever is arguing for the more right-wing position on any given issue.
Yeah.
And so like, Haas even being a self-described, communist and Stalinist, they're definitely going to be all about Haas in this debate. That's just how it goes.
Which says something about, I think, his ideological positions, that he would be welcomed in that space.
Yeah,
that's just my opinion, though.
Well, yeah. So what I'm going to say is I want to be. I don't want to repeat something about someone based on a minor, like one or two interactions with their, content. Sure. So, he may, and I will be coming at this from a good faith perspective, so I'll take him at his word that he is a communist. Yeah. Now, I mean, I'll just point out also that the very first thing the Bolsheviks did, like when they took over Russia, like one of the first things was decriminalize homosexuality. Now, granted, Stalin did roll that back, though, and he was pretty homophobic, but also that he always struck me as a concession to the church, as opposed to like a major ideological shift for Marx-Leninists. I mean, do you agree with that, Bobby, or do you have a different perspective?
On his recriminalization of homosexuality, yeah, that's a pretty good assessment of it. Aside from the fact that, Stalin did grow up in a very conservative Georgia. Not the country, not the state, obviously.
Well, hang on, sorry, I just wanted to get this in.
Yeah,
flat Earth is idiotic.
Yeah,
I am definitely a skeptic about flat Earth.
Oh yeah, man. Well, you can disprove flat Earth with about a quarter mile and some survey stakes and binoculars if you'd like. But yeah, his recriminalization of homosexuality. Yeah, I mean, like he did kind of open up the churches again during World War II. And that could be seen as a concession to that. He was also like deeply personally conservative in that regard. Yeah. And he also deeply anti-Semitic.
Indeed. Yeah, which is a shame. It's funny that they accuse Nestor Makhno of hey, by the way.
Oh, nice shirt.
Yeah. It's interesting that they accuse Nestor Makhno of being I guess, anti-Semitic, despite the fact that he had like all of these Jewish anarchists fighting with him. And, you got Alexander Berkman and Emma Goldman, like meeting him and speaking like so highly of him and everything he's doing. And the one time somebody under his command did actually carry out a pogrom, like Makhno put him on trial and executed him. So it's really funny that they're like, oh yeah, anti-Semitic Black Army, but Stalin, great.
Yeah, I think the problem with that is that they tend to lump in the Black Army with the actual reactionary right-wing militias that were in Ukraine during the interregnum, I guess, between the Tsars and the USSR, which were a real thing. But I always like to point out that it's interesting that the White Army, this is a weird little historical aside, so I apologize for derailing your stream, but the White Army in the Far East, there was an American, Japanese, and British intervention in Russia during the interregnum civil war, basically, to keep the Trans-Siberian Railroad open. And the Americans only actually wound up shooting at the White Army because they were committing such horrific war crimes. They never wound up shooting at the Reds. But the White Army was just so horrific in that war.
Well, I mean, that's what reactionaries are like.
Yeah, you have to watch this. Oh, sorry.
Say what?
So, I was going to say, you have to watch this awful movie they made about Admiral Kolchak, who was the leader of the White Army. The Russian government made it a few years ago, and it's like a propaganda piece for this dude. It's
oh my lord!
It's really it's free on YouTube.
Thank you. I don't know if I need any more ulcers, but you know, again, it's funny because you know, what is it now? There's so many things that Ukraine is fascist because one of their politicians and one of their controversial heroes was a Nazi sympathizer, and that makes the entire freaking nation of Ukraine. But this dude the Russian government can go and like lionize leader of the White Army.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and they have like the Wagner group too. So
yeah,
one of my upcoming episodes hopefully is going to be a Who is the Wagner group. So tune in for that.
I really want to tune in for that, actually. Yeah, that's exciting because they claim to be the only unit in the Russian army right now that is taking ground, you know, which is true, but also yes, they're advancing, but not in any significant way. And it seems like the goal that they're trying to accomplish is not even particularly strategically important.
Well, they're run by a caterer, so.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. All right, so Bobby, we got to go on about Cobra Kai. So I have seen Cobra Kai, the most recent season. I freaking love this show, but I also I have a hard time watching it though, because as much as I love it, it is also like incredibly cringy, and I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know, like both as a martial artist and a writer. I don't know if me cringing at every other thing is like good or bad as far as like how it speaks to the writing of the show. What's your feed on the most recent season?
I really liked most of it. There's about a quarter of it that I'm sure we'll discuss that I thought was kind of mildly offensive, and it's the bit where they went to Mexico. But I think it's actually very well made, and the reason I kind of like discussing this with you is because we come from different combat sports arenas. I come from boxing, you come from karate, and I'm always kind of sympathizing with the villains in this show because the way I was taught to fight was more in line with the way they teach the kids to fight, where you're in with somebody and you're trying to unalive them basically and just completely go at them with everything you've got and annihilate them. And for me it's like, okay, Johnny and Kreese are right about fighting, but Daniel is right about living. And in this season I think they did a good job of showing how the Miyagi school is actually also kind of right about fighting when they bring in Chosen.
Oh God, Chosen is my favorite character.
He's the best character.
Everything is wonderful about him. And yeah, I mean, so there's two views with martial arts. And it really depends on like how serious of a dojo you go to.
Sure.
You know, Kyokushin, they push us to like, first of all, what I should say is I have the suspicion that Cobra Kai is called Cobra Kai because the word for a Kyokushin karate practitioner is Kyokushin Kai. And like, you know, the guy in my Buddhist organization, which is, you know, out of Japan, Sokogakai, like one of the other young men's leaders asked me, this guy was from Japan. He's like, what are you studying? And I was like, oh, Kyokushin. His eyes get wide. He's like, oh, that's the badass one. Because guys, fun fact, Kyokushin was created by a guy named Masoyama, who was a Korean who was adopted into a Japanese karate family. And he popularized the sport and his version of karate by first beating up like a ton of American GIs during the occupation until him becoming actively wanted by the American government and the military for all of these assaults and fights.
Please stop hitting our guys. You're really good at it. It hurts.
To which he like ran. He went into the mountains and trained for a month. He shaved off one of his eyebrows so he would not be tempted to return. And then like when he did finally return, he popularized Kyokushin by fist fighting bulls. I am not kidding about that. Like it's on YouTube. You can see the footage of him fist fighting a bull.
Well, does the bull know it's coming? Like, or is the bull just like eating grass, and all of a sudden this lunatic walks up to him and knocks it out? It's like, oh, look, there's a human. He's come to feed me. Bam.
You know what's a little fucked up about it. I will say this, because it does, like, after he killed like 4 bulls, like people were like, dude, you got to stop killing bulls.
They're expensive, bro. It's not cheap in Japan.
But if you see it, like there's a rope wrapped around the bull's nose, so he's got that, like he can kind of control the bull's head, and he's just like freaking raining punches on this thing. But also, it's a goddamn bull.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah.
Well, like I couldn't do that. If I had a hold of a rope around its neck, I'm not going to be. I think he actually did knock their horns off a few times.
I was gonna say I tried to box like Muhammad Ali, but I'm not built for it. I wound up boxing more like Roberto Duran, and my idol, kind of Roberto Duran, knew he was going to be a fighter when he was a boy, when he knocked out a mule with one punch. So I guess we kind of have that in common.
He did, the people in our thing just
hit
vicious animal cruelty.
I've never fought a bear, but I guess I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. But yes, I mean, Cobra Kai in the first season, it makes a lot of sense. Like, they do teach you to punch 6 inches beyond your target, particularly if you're trying to break a board.
Right. You know? We never did the gimmick board thing in boxing because we were always, but we did the pads, and they taught us that same thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, breaking the board, like the board, that's kind of a gimmick, unless depending upon how the type of wood that you're using. One of the things that my dojo did was like several black belts broke like 100 pounds of ice.
Oh,
like
wow.
Giant ice blocks, just pow. It's really incredible. The cinder blocks are surprisingly enough, like, it's kind of impressive, but also not. Because it like cinder blocks are actually, if you've ever like gone to pick up cinder blocks like at the at the I was going to say grocery store, but like at Lowe's or at the hardware store, you find it's very easy to break them accidentally. So like when you're trying to break them on purpose, but I mean, it takes about 5 pounds of pressure per square inch to break a board. And also a nose. So if you are capable of breaking a single board, you are also capable of breaking someone's nose. And very much the same type of attack, actually.
It desensitizes you to it because your whole social conditioning is to not beat up other people in our society. In societies in general, every society.
Oh, by the way, so Gempt here sounds like an anime main character, meaning Maso Yama. I am convinced that Maso Yama is the inspiration for several anime characters. Particularly, I actually think he's one of the major inspirations for Isaac Netero in Hunter x Hunter, because like that Netero has a personality very similar to Mas.
you could do a crossover with Jack Dempsey, who had a really cool story where he was like an Okie kind of person. I don't know if he was actually from Oklahoma. He was an Okie type of drifting guy in the West when it was still a little wild, towards like Red Dead Redemption 1 times. And he used to make his living by going into bars and betting money that he could take every man in the bar, which no homo.
My mind immediately went there.
Yeah, me too. I phrased that poorly, but like he would fight gangs of people for money, and then somebody was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about prize fighting?" Like, and he's like, "Oh, I can just fight one dude and make a lot of money." And he actually literally wrote the book on boxing. And if you want to learn about fighting, reading "Explosive Punching" by Jack Dempsey, which is available on Amazon.com. Jeff Bezos can pay me money for that plug. Is the book on fighting that you should definitely read.
I do actually. That sounds really good. It actually reminds me of like the background of the Andre the Giant character in Princess Bride.
Yeah, exactly. Except Jack was like 5'10".
Little guys can be they can be dangerous. There was one of my senseis was very short, and early on, one of the things I was very good at. Because one of the things I will do to you if you fight me is people assume that because I'm a really big guy, I'm going to try to stay very far away from my opponent. But I actually like to get in really close because in that situation, especially if my opponent is smaller than me, they can't get the kind of torque that they need to actually like do any serious damage.
Right.
Meanwhile, I am heavy enough and strong enough that even very close, hooks and knees and elbows and whatever else I can throw in there is gonna hurt a lot. And in fact, like when I was doing the international fight in Montreal, that is exactly the way that I won, by getting close to my opponent. So, and the entire time he was sitting there like raining low kicks on my thigh, and I felt like freaking Vegeta because I was like, dude, you can do that to me all day. This is not going. It's not going to do anything. And then I knocked him out with the knee from that leg.
Do they deduct points for talking smack during those fights?
I don't know because we didn't speak the same language.
Oh, okay.
They may have, because the French. So I don't think any of the judges spoke English, because like the French head judge, like you see me, I lost my first match because my opponent kept blocking my fist with his face.
This was
say what?
That's a lot. This is where our philosophies like divide a little bit, because that's confusing to me.
Well, so here's the thing with Kyokushin.
Yeah.
Kyokushin trains you to attack the body and the legs. You are allowed to kick in the head, but you cannot punch to the head or face. And you can't do like a front snap kick like directly to the face.
Like the illegal crane kick in Cobra Kai.
Oh yeah, that probably was an illegal kick.
Yeah, that's what started the show. Is somebody made a YouTube video pointing out that Daniel's the bully, and the last point he makes is that at the end that's an illegal crane kick.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I remember he talked about that. Johnny was like, that was an illegal kick.
Yeah.
Daniel was like, what? But yeah, no, that would be illegal. So the reason they do that, because I've seen like several people online, like even like Jesse the Karate Nerd, because I watch a lot of martial arts videos as well. So there was a guy who was really going after karate. He was talking about, you can see there's a match between a Kyokushin Kai and a Muay Thai fighter. And the Kyokushin Kai, like you can see in this match, the dude has done so much body conditioning. The Muay Thai boxer is just unable to damage him in any way. But the fight ends, I think, when the Thai boxer punches him in the face, and the guy like immediately stops, and so what's important to understand about that is how Kyokushin Kai are trained. And Jesse Enkamp, or however you say it, the karate nerd, he speculated that it was because they don't necessarily want the best fighter to win. They want the toughest fighter to win, because it's about building up your body. This is partially true, but it's not entirely true. With Kyokushin, the reason they do not allow punches to the face and head is because if they like, Kyokushin trains to fight bare knuckle.
Oh, you're gonna break your hand.
Exactly, or the face. And if you have two black belts, punching each other in the face bare knuckle, like pretty soon nobody's going to want to do Kyokushin, because Kyokushin Kai won't have faces.
Well, like when I was in high school while I was boxing, I would come to school like all messed up, like my whole face would be a bruise because I was in the 2004 Golden Gloves tournament, and I won my first fight, I won my second fight, And in my
Mhm.
third fight, I was fighting a dude who looked like he ate 2 a butterbean and 1 of you for dessert. Right?
Oh,
It's
shit.
huge. And in round 3, I didn't bring my jab far back enough, and I can just see this right hook coming down the pipe, and it's just too late to do anything. I'm like, no, right? This dude hit me so hard he knocked a filling out of my tooth,
Oh, shit.
and he turned the headgear that you wear in amateur boxing. He turned that sideways over my face. And people ask me like, did you keep fighting after that? No, dude, I woke up in the locker room. So I had to
Yeah.
go to school that Monday with the whole side of my face as a bruise.
Yeah.
And the teacher comes up to me and goes, is everything okay at home? I'm like, no.
They're
And she's
letting
like,
you box.
yeah, and she's like, what happened to your face? I'm a boxer. Are you any good? No.
Oh man, no, you were good. You had but yeah,
Yeah.
the jaw is kind of the on-off button of the body.
Yeah, right where it meets the ear almost.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's only, again, about 5 pounds of pressure per square inch if you
Yeah.
hit in just the right way that makes the jaw do this.
And if you torque the head at such an angle at such a speed, it'll turn off your computer basically.
Click.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Like getting knocked out is not okay. So with my knockout, it was the guy didn't like literally black out.
yeah.
It was he took a knee to the solar plexus, which I was originally trained never to hit.
Yeah.
But Kyokushin was like, no, dude, hit for that.
Yeah, knock the wind out of him, brother.
Yeah. So so like
a body knockout for me is actually way worse than a head knockout. Because I've been knocked out to the head and I've been knocked out to the liver. And if you hit somebody hard enough in the liver,
yeah, that is not pleasant.
No, it's not, because the liver processes all the toxins in your body. And if you hit the liver hard enough, it releases everything that's processing it into your bloodstream. And it feels like your whole body seizes up. So I learned really good how to hit that liver, but somebody got me in it one time and I'm just like, I'm not getting nope. I'm gonna stay down here.
So like with the guy I knocked out, he had the solar plexus, knocked the wind out of him, couldn't continue. The first guy, as I said, like there's 2 levels at a tournament. There is knockdown and semi-knockdown.
Right.
Knockdown is the bare knuckle, it's reserved for brown belt and higher. And yeah, it's freaking phenomenal to see. Semi knockdown is quite a few steps above point sparring, but it isn't exactly what we're training to do. Right. So like I was a lower belt rank at this point, so I couldn't fight knockdown. And like, so essentially that was pads and shin guards. Though I will also say the pads and shin guards they have you wear are almost not there. Like
people kind of forget, especially with boxing, is that the gloves are mostly there to protect my hands. It's not there to protect the other guy.
Yeah. Well, so when like so anyway, that's the reason why they don't allow face punching. It is because the style trains to fight bare knuckle. If they allowed bare knuckle, they could, if they allow bare knuckle fighting, they do not want to allow punching to the face because of the damage that can have on both fighters. Yeah. And so, you're not supposed to train to do that. So like when they train somebody, especially if all they've ever done is Kyokushin, usually like in a fight, especially, a kickboxing one, they are going to stop usually. Yeah. Now, also, we studied boxing at my dojo, and I had a martial arts background before then, which is why my opponent kept blocking my fist with his face because I had like actual like muscle memory responses, and one of my favorite things to do. Like if you fight me, the other big thing that I'm really good at is counter punching. So what I'm usually trained to do is if you come at me and you start to throw a punch, I'm going to hit you in the face, like not just to hit you in the face, but also to throw you off balance so that punch either doesn't happen or if it does happen, it might as well not have because it doesn't do any damage.
we call that jabbing for the stop. Like if you see somebody loading up, you step in with a power jab.
Yeah, and pow.
Yeah.
So like, it took me a while to switch over to the point where, you know, when I was counterpunching, instead of, you know, instinctively going for the face, I would punch for like the shoulders. You know, and it's, you can hurt with that. You can throw someone off, though it's obviously not as effective, because also when you hit in the face, you know, there's the stunning effect.
Rocky Marciano, I guess this is turning mostly into a martial arts stream, so I hope you're okay with that. I hope
that's awesome. I'm very happy to do a martial arts stream, but we will continue to get into Cobra Kai going forward.
Outstanding. But Rocky Marciano, who's the last guy to retire undefeated as a heavyweight champion, I think he was like 48-0 when he retired. He would purposely hit you in the shoulders and arms for the early rounds. To build up blood clots so you couldn't bring your arms up to defend yourself at the end.
That is something a good friend of mine was taught to do by the guy in his Taekwondo dojo. He was basically like, if you can't hit a guy, take his weapons away by just wailing on like his arms and legs, because a lot of the time, particularly the legs, especially if you're inexperienced, people do not defend their legs, which makes low kicks and knees incredibly brutal. And in fact, you know, to bring this all back to where we were talking, when my sensei, when I did this to him, and keep in mind, like, dude came up to like here on me. When I went in and threw like started throwing my like hooks into him, he absolutely obliterated my thighs with like just one or two knees, and I was just like, oh, okay, not doing that. At which time I completely changed my my plan for the whole fight and was like, okay, I'm going to keep him at leg length now.
So that's kind of one difference between traditional martial arts and combat sports, I guess, like boxing. And MMA especially, I guess now, is that like every gym I went to, our trainers didn't sell themselves as being like personally good fighters. They sold themselves as like athletic trainers. So like most of the guys that I trained me to fight well, I could probably have taken them in a fight. I mean, of course, if I tried, everyone in the gym would have gang beat me to death. But like, I think that's kind of an issue for martial arts gyms, and in the show too. We can discuss this. Is that like you kind of are a little vulnerable to like a toxic culture with that, because you get these guys who are either like BS martial arts who are trying to teach you like no touch knockouts because I'm a 15th degree samurai ancient warrior from the mountains or something, or you get people like Terry Silver and Cobra Kai who are trying to like work out personal problems through their students, and I've seen that a lot with traditional martial arts guys.
You're 100% right. And there's a lot of, I mean, one of these days I'm going to do a comic series, basically my version of Cobra Kai, about the dojo wars in Chicago.
Oh my God. That's we should talk about that story. That's such a crazy story, bro.
It is nuts. We definitely should. For those of you guys who don't know about the dojo wars, there is a guy by the name of Count Dante.
Not his real name.
And all of you will know who this guy, what this guy looks like, because Mr. Satan / Hercule from Dragon Ball Z is based directly on him, down to like looking exactly like him.
And fighting like him too, frankly.
Yeah. And having a very similar personality.
Yes. We had a guy down here who ran a ninja school when I moved to Florida. And I was in a Muay Thai gym at the time because I was trying to kickbox, and this kid comes in and he wants to learn how to box or whatever. So the trainer's running him through some paces, and I wound up in the ring sparring with somebody, and the kid said he wanted to spar. And if you do that in like a gladiator academy, like they're going to put you in with somebody who knows what they're doing, and you're going to get thumped, and they're going to see if you come back. So they put this kid in there with me, and I'm like, I really don't want to like hurt this kid. So I circle, and I popped him with a jab, and he did a somersault, and he comes up, and he does the Sonya Blade fatality from MK1 where he puts his hand out and blows, right? And then he puts his arms up like he won, and literally everyone in the gym is making the look like Brenton's looking right now. And he goes, and we're all like, what was that? And he's like, that was my ninja dust. I just killed you. And that kid was Dan the Ninja Man for the rest of his life.
Wow, my
Yeah,
ninja dust!
just
I
I
just
just
killed you.
killed you. So I always
I think
wanted to
I've heard
go
that
there.
story before. And
I might have told you that one. Yeah, it's a good story.
yeah. All right. So yeah. So Cobra, and oddly enough, this does kind of go into sort of the subject of the debate. What
Right.
I think it would have turned into tonight,
I think it
based on
does
what
too.
I saw out of Haas's stream from a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And so, okay. So there is essentially like, there's actual masculinity and actual fighting prowess.
Sure.
And it looks very different from the way people who are obsessed with masculinity, imagine the how to be a man, how to express yourself, how to behave in public, how to fight.
Right.
And by the way, like it is on the level of not just like personal, but like civilizational conflict. You will notice, that at the moment, the incredibly manly Russian army is like on the end of a brutal beatdown by the they them
Ukrainian army, yeah.
army. Like the idea of this being a civilizational conflict between Russia and the West, and the idea that like we are weak because we allow trans people to exist and gay people to exist and have civil rights, like that actually makes our culture a lot stronger.
Significantly too. I'll take the worst trans soldier you can find in the U.S. Army with me to war, and we'll take a whole squad or platoon of Russians down because they don't know what they're doing. And you're right. It winds up being like a show of masculinity because the Russian army, we discussed this previously, wound up being basically built to like parade and intimidating their population instead of actually fighting. And the number one way you can always tell an army, or it applies to what you're talking about, masculinity, isn't ready to fight, is that they're doing group formation karate for cameras. and they do a lot of big military parades because a parade army will never fight. And that's kind of the kind of masculinity you're talking about. It's paraded masculinity. Like I'm a very chill person. You've talked to me for like 2 years now, so I think that's the impression people usually get about me. And like I don't feel the need to like start fights or like muscle up on people. It's always the insecure guy. And the other thing is that like I've never had my masculinity like questioned in like healthy leftist circles. The only time I've ever had my masculinity questioned is by like a peacocking right winger who thinks I'm like effeminate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like watching Haas's stream, and I'm hoping that this was just an off day for him or something. But
you're very charitable.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm trying. Where there's like a moment in the stream where he's screaming about how Islam is never going to change because it's been around 1400 years or something. And I'm just like, 14 humans have been on this planet 250,000 years, dude.
And bro, like Islam's changed in the past like 100 years.
Like, change is the one universal constant. It's not like you might as well be yelling "fuck you" and entropy. I'm gonna live forever.
Yeah, I mean, like Wahhabism's like what, like 60 years old, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's specifically grown, and I don't know if the CIA created it, but definitely disseminated it.
Well, the Saudis definitely struck a devil's bargain with them because they broadcast their messages, and the Wahhabists don't make trouble in the kingdom.
Yeah. So like anyway, my point is I don't want to be like personal on this, but I felt like watching the stream, among a number of major mistakes that was being made, was that like basically he seemed to not really have a firm grasp on like what actual masculinity is. And it seemed like he was just using femininity and trans identity to, basically slander his opponents. Like he was comparing Zelensky to a trans person. And like, it was the weirdest fucking thing to watch. You know,
You're still trying to be charitable.
I'm trying so hard.
I admire
you know,
it.
yeah. I mean, well, it's also I don't want to talk shit about somebody when they're not there.
Fair
you
enough.
know, maybe this may be why my channel hasn't grown.
I will. No.
At the biggest rate is that I'm not jumping into fights with fucking influencers every other minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's actually because I put most of my effort on the comics that I'm doing, and haven't really focused on. I'm so lazy. I didn't even put out the debate with me and
JF therapy.
And JF. I should do that next, because that was a good debate. I was very strong in that one.
Yeah. Well, like people, you were, but like people who haven't. People who are trying to live up to a stereotype of masculinity that they get from media. Like if you're trying to live up to like Schwarzenegger's Commando, Conan the Barbarian, John Wick,
yeah,
Rambo, whatever, and they live a life that's divorced from that because we live in like such a luxurious society in the global north, I guess. There's like this toxicity that kind of develops where they know they're not living up to that warrior standard that they think is so cool,
which they think is a warrior standard, and it's not.
Which they think is exactly correct. Yeah, it's really not. But they try to live up to that standard in the way that is most accessible to them, and part of that compensation winds up being putting people down for perceived characteristics that go along with that, and it winds up being comical sometimes. If it weren't so toxic for a lot of men.
Trying to live up to a masculine ideal that isn't real and was never real.
Yeah.
And is mainly put out by Hollywood I mean, great example, like when the far right was losing their minds over General Milley. You know?
Yeah.
You know, because General Milley, he's gonna read Mao. He's going to read Lenin. Of course he is. You know, he's going to want to know about, what was it that he said? It was the white...
white nationalist terrorist threat, or was it the...
It was, I think it was like white fragility or something.
Oh, yeah. Because that's a real thing.
Yeah. He wants to know about it so that he can be better at killing people.
Yeah. And let's talk about General Milley for a second. That guy has like a special forces tab, a ranger tab, and a combat infantry badge with a star. And people don't know what that means. A combat infantry badge is you've seen direct infantry combat in a declared war. And the star means that he's done it in 2 wars. So that dude, like calling that dude like a soy boy is like the gold standard for showing somebody as like a fragile, toxic masculinity guy.
Yeah. So anyway, and by the way, replying to the martial arts talk from earlier, as someone who tried their hand at jiu-jitsu, you should. So definitely. Actually, I have 2 years Brazilian jiu-jitsu training.
I did that in
college.
I did a little BJJ too, and in the Army, the combatives program is basically just jiu-jitsu.
I mean, jiu-jitsu is incredibly effective.
Yeah.
What I will say about jiu-jitsu is, so this is the problem with jiu-jitsu. It is probably the best fighting style for fighting a single opponent, assuming you can get your hands on them. Like they'll say stuff like like most fights end on the ground. Yeah, but they all start on your feet.
Yeah, I intimidated a guy with that one time because he said that to me, and I was a little angry. I don't know why. And I turned around to him like, the fight goes to the ground when I effing put you there. He's like, oh. He's like, oh yeah, Bob can punch. Like,
so like, BJJ is really effective,
great,
especially if you're a smaller person. One of the things that I was most happy about was there was a girl who was in the same class that I worked with, and I came in there with like a pretty serious martial arts background. So while I was learning BJJ, I was actually helping her because we'd been paired together, and I was like basically helping her to be a little bit more aggressive this was little girl, 5 foot, woman, beautiful blonde hair, actual cheerleader. And after working with me for a while, and not just me, like the other, like she went into a grappling match against a former like high school football player and choked him out. It was beautiful.
Yeah, well, like it's like when Frank Mir got Brock Lesnar in his first UFC fight with the Kimura armbar, and like Brock had like 80 pounds on him, I think, in that fight.
Yeah. Well, it's like my first sensei, Mr. Bertram, always said, like, if you're fighting a bigger guy in like a real fight, you attack his knees. You attack the elbows and the knees, because no matter how big or heavy or strong, everybody's got the same joints.
See, you got coherent advice. Like my best boxing trainer, and it was like an in-joke in our gym. He used to yell from he had like the voice from like Rocky. He had like the Mickey voice from Rocky, and he'd yell like, "Hit him in the mezuzah, kid!" And I'd be like, "The what?" And like a mezuzah is like a thing that Jewish people hang up, and I'm like, "Where's the mezuzah?" And so we started like yelling to hit people in like various different parts of the. Hit him in the gazebo. Get him in the credenza, kid.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Well, so I did 2 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I thought it was really effective. My favorite way to get people is a guillotine choke, because it's so easy to get somebody into that, and once you've got them, you've got them. I won a fight like basically based on as my sensei and that put it, a textbook armbar. Because what I did was I was grappling with a guy who was bigger than me and significantly stronger than me. And so what I did was I was on top, and I was just like, okay, I'm going to push his arm in this useless direction. So I grabbed his arm and I tried to push it down like onto his chest, not because I wanted his arm there, but because I wanted him to push back in the opposite direction, which is exactly what he did, which, bam, immediate arm bar.
And like size does matter though, because when I was in basic training, we had this guy from Samoa, and he was like 6'8", and he's a helicopter. He was a helicopter crewman, which I never understood.
Yeah,
but whatever.
Isn't The Rock from Samoa?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. So we were doing the combatives in the tire pit, which is just this pit that they have with tire shreds in it. And I got on his back. I hooked in a rear naked choke. I even got my legs in. And this dude was so strong. He reached over his shoulder, grabbed the collar of my ACU jacket, and reverse curled me off his back with one arm.
Oh shit.
And dude, like as I'm flying through the air being curled by this monster, I'm just like, I have made a terrible mistake.
I love those moments in fights where time is so different when you're fighting, and like just there are these hilarious moments where you're reflecting on all of the terrible choices you've made.
Yeah, and
get yourself in this situation.
Yeah, I hit the ground and I tapped out, and the drill sergeant's like, "You don't want to keep fighting?" I'm like, "No."
I got my second international tournament in Montreal. I got paired with a dude who was clearly like a really heavily trained like cage fighter. Like you could tell he was rank jumping, which to be fair, they make you do that. So like if you come in with a black belt from another style, they're going to force you to fight as a white belt or vice versa. And so I was in there, I was kind of a mid rank. And so and basically, like I looked around the all of the possible opponents, and like the one opponent I don't want to fight is that fucking guy. And of course, like the guy comes in, he looks at that guy, looks at everyone else, realizes I'm a head taller, and it's just like, you go fight him. I'm like, shit. And my sensei, like when I'm getting ready, like my sensei is like a little nervous, is like, that guy's gonna come at you really hard, and I'm like, yeah, it probably is. So I fought him. I did pretty well in that he was not able to hurt me, but I was not able to control the fight. He was knocking me all over the place. And then at one point, this was so fucking badass. So I'm sitting there, and basically I'm like, okay, I'm going to win this fight like I won the other. I'm hitting him in the goddamn solar plexus. Not thinking that the pads that I had on were a bit bigger than the ones that I'd had the last time, and also with my hand instead of my knee. So I threw a pretty damn good hook, like right into where I thought his solar plexus was. Nothing. No response whatsoever.
He's been doing them
sit-ups.
Then
like he saw that I did it, and he just offered me that spot to hit. And so I'm like, okay. And I hit him again, nothing.
I fought a Native American guy years
Mhm.
ago, and he was like 6'4". I'm like 6'1".
Shit.
And
You fought like Jim Thorpe comes in.
yeah, basically. But like he was a terrible boxer. Like he had no idea what he was doing. But like he had a chin. Like he could take a hit. And like
Mhm.
I would hit him with like a haymaker, and his head would turn, and he'd turn back and go,
Yeah.
and I realized that he would have actually won that fight if it went more rounds, because I would have tired out eventually, and he would have just like murdered me. Oh man. But like
So
oh sorry,
no,
go
no,
ahead.
no, no, no. It's so to kind of bring this back,
Yeah,
there's a lot of masculine archetypes. I
right.
particularly identify with, and I really like the heroic artisan, because like market man, which is now basically like guys. So there's a number of different kind of classifications for archetypes. I'm sure the incels will love this because they're all into guy,
Sigma Sigma
guy,
Alpha Beta
yeah,
Gemini male. Like I don't know.
Omicron, whatever. Yeah. But basically, from society to society, the idea of what a man is and how a man should behave and what masculinity is changes. The one that is the most prevalent in our culture right now is market man. I fucking hate market man. And basically, it's the ideal of masculinity that specializes like cleverness and business acumen.
Yeah.
Don Draper is a perfect example. And I hate capitalism, so of course I fucking hate this guy.
Yeah.
And I don't hate Don Draper. I mean, I hate that.
It's okay to hate Don.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Though the actor who plays him is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I
John
love
Hamm,
that.
killer actor.
Yeah, John Hamm. So like, yeah. So this ties into Cobra Kai again in kind of a really big way, because as you said, the senseis in Cobra Kai are absolutely insane, except for Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny's right, man. Like Johnny, maybe I messed up, but I really empathize with Johnny.
No, he's a great character.
Yeah.
He's kind of an idiot, but
Yeah.
it comes from a good place. Like freaking but Kreese is a cult leader.
Yeah. well, like what's great about Johnny is that like he has a lot of like old school 80s masculinity stuff that he hasn't addressed, but when people call him out on it, he adjusts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like immediately, which is like the acceptable response, I think.
Were you talking about Kreese or
No, Johnny, like he'll say something like horrifically insensitive to one of the students, and then someone will be like, bro, you can't say that about somebody with like a cleft palate anymore, and he's like,
yeah,
oh, okay, sorry. Like moving on.
he does. Which I mean, interestingly enough, that's kind of one of the that's sort of a major theme both in fighting, because that's really important. You have to learn to adapt, but also like in life and in the actual progress of the series. Like one of the things that I thought was really good was that they gave. So at the end of the last season, they gave they challenged both Johnny and Kreese, and put them in a situation that to get out of the situation, they would have to change the way that they operate. They would have to make progress. And Johnny failed. He did not change in that last episode, and that immediately caused Diaz to run away to Mexico.
Yeah.
Whereas Kreese actually did make progress, because his big moment was telling Johnny to sweep the leg, to fight dirty, and he told Tori not to do that and to fight in a way that was true to herself and honorable and stuff. And so, of course, Tori wins, though, of course, we also find out that the judge had been paid off.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah,
easy to tell your fighter to fight fair when you've paid off the judges.
yeah. Well, Kreese didn't know.
No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, yeah. But I'll tell you what, Bobby, I'm going to be hearing everything that you're going to say, but
Yeah.
I got to run to the little Kyokushinkai's room, the little
Oh,
anarchist room.
oh, okay, cool.
So you can keep talking. I will hear you. You are in my hearing
Oh,
aids.
I'm in the hearing
But
aid.
yeah, you just have our audience enjoy the dulcet sounds of your voice and tell them about your perspective on Cobra Kai.
Yeah, wow, okay, Brenton's away, guys. Post weird stuff in his chat. Do it. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do it. He's gonna come back and hurt me. So yeah, the one kind of weird thing that I've always found about this series is the tournaments at the very end of each season. Because despite coming from like a boxing background where we do kind of throw each other into a sort of like a gladiator academy where you're basically doing full contact sparring from pretty early on in your martial arts journey. In Cobra Kai, they have these bare knuckle karate tournaments at the end of every season where they have this like very wealthy, well-to-do town in Southern California. They're in LA. I think they explicitly say they're in LA, and they have these kids who are doing like a bare knuckle kumite against each other in like an elimination tournament at the local rec center. And my conspiracy theory has always been about Karate Kid that they actually have like an illegal like death match thing going on in the rec center, and that they're kind of like broadcasting these kid fights over the internet or over pay-per-view back in the 80s. But yeah, like what Brenton was saying about the senseis working out their issues through their students. I think that's kind of a really interesting thing that the show's examined, in that you see like Daniel kind of like coming to terms with like being a middle-aged guy and having this background in martial arts and not knowing what to do with it. You see Johnny kind of evolving into being like a modern human being basically, and associating with society through his students. And those are both kind of mostly healthy processes, although they're also played for laughs. But on the other side of that, you see Kreese adapting to the modern martial arts scene in a way that allows him to manipulate people to his own ends. So whereas Daniel and Johnny use their students as an ends instead of a means, you have Kreese using his students as a means explicitly. And Terry Silver comes into the picture, and he's a lot like Kreese, but he's a lot more refined. At the same time, he's using the students as a means, but as a means for like a specific business end, where he's using these kids as like a product to promote a chain of dojos, where he's going to have dojos all over the world teaching his brand of karate, leaving his legacy because he doesn't have any kids, and he disgustingly needs to have his like capitalist legacy be this weird business he builds, and he wants them to go fight in this not underground but pretty famously brutal karate tournament in Japan. Misunderstanding driving karate gangs. I like Daniel and want him to be a good guy. Yeah, Daniel is a good guy, but he's just a flawed character, and I think that kind of works a little bit better nowadays than having like the perfect hero. If you have like a perfect hero, it gets really boring. It's kind of why we stopped doing like 50s style westerns where the hero's just like the perfect good guy, and we started doing like anti-westerns and having more complicated main characters. So I think they did that very well. If you want to see a good example of that, there's The Boys, which is our modern anti-Western kind of thing. And Brenton's back.
I think the number of subscribers went up after I left, so maybe I should just put you in charge of my channel.
Well, my social media managing business is Panopticon Productions, and you can contact my business manager, Louis Saifieri, and we'll have a good time.
Anyway, to get back to what we were talking about, the ideal of masculinity that I like the most is the heroic artisan. And this was like the masculine ideal in like 1800s, it was kind of the it was the father who was engaged in a trade where he worked, for himself, creating stuff. If you read Darude, Shadow of the People #1, hey, got another plug in there. Yeah. And this is from real life. It begins with Darude being taken on as an apprentice by Melchor Martinez, which happened in real life. But this is an example of the heroic artisan archetype of masculinity. You notice, and he even says here, this is one of the things that I love here. So he says, he grabs Daruti by the arm, young Daruti, and says, you are strong, and that is good. It means you'll hit hard. But strength is not enough. You also need intelligence and patience. You must wait until the steel is red hot and direct your blows carefully. Only then will it take the form that you want. Which is an actual thing he said to Daruti. But I think, in the story, that encapsulates Daruti's approach to revolution. And so, like, what I really feel like when we get certain people freaking out about men behaving not just men, but men and women, people behaving outside of the gendered expectations. There is an incredibly unhealthy thing about that. Both because a lot of the time these gendered expectations are not grounded in reality, at least not right now, the current, sort of, as you said, like John Wick inspired masculinity that we see, that's not something that men have ever been traditionally. Like, part of being a man is knowing how to fight and being ready to fight if you have to, but like, obviously, if you go around starting fights, you are not acting in a masculine way, because I mean, like, the men who did that got themselves hurt and killed, and disrupted society and put the people they were supposed to protect in danger. So, being overly aggressive about something is not a sign of masculinity. It is a sign of deep, deep insecurity. And to then go to carry that further, and to allow this insecurity to inform an attack on people who by all rights should be your comrades. Like, that's what the left is. Like, we're not a support group, but the left is interested in representing civil rights for the most vulnerable and marginalized people in our population, specifically because not only are these people like the ones who have the most revolutionary potential, because they are the least incentivized in society continuing the way that it does, but also a leftist is motivated by, the left traditionally has been motivated by a sincere respect for life, irregardless of rank or distinction. As Che Guevara famously put it, like
the most important characteristic of revolutionary is love. I think that was So thank you. You by coming to my thing. No, a revolutionary is motivated by great feelings of love. Oh yeah.
It actually preface that with, it may seem strange, but that's you knew exactly where I was going with that. So I don't see it being particularly coherent to be super mad about trans people existing and children knowing that they exist. Like, if you just want to replicate the systems of oppression that exist within our society and kick these people around, why be a leftist at all?
I would argue you're not at that point, because that's inherently reactionary and right-wing position.
I mean, you said that, not me, but
no, I did. That's Bob's position.
But I also, I don't ever want to give up on someone.
That's fair enough.
Of the time.
You're way more. I think war hardened my heart, Brenton. I'm just less charitable.
Well, you've seen both of us had very interesting experiences at around the same time in our lives. Yours was war. And mine was the Appalachian Trail. And first of all, I think is really interesting and ironic is that Earl Schaefer, the first man to ever hike the entirety of the AT all at once, that everyone around that time believed could not even be done, he was a World War II vet.
Well, the Army does a few things very well, Brenton, and one of them is teaching you how to walk a really long way with a backpack on.
Yeah, indeed. Well, and also I think that there's something about getting his head right after the war. I met a Vietnam vet who was for the same reason. He had been a point man and a tunnel rat in Nam.
God,
and
that's horrific.
Oh yeah, he told a story, and this actually made it into the play North to Maine that I wrote about the experience, where like the character gives this monologue where he's like, I shot at him and he shot at me, and neither of us could hit nothing because the tunnel was curved, so I threw a grenade. And I don't remember hearing an explosion. It was more like a pop, like one of those party things that you hear. And I reached in, I grabbed the guy, and I pulled him out, and the whole squad had one hell of a laugh. And the character is kind of basically a sign-in for me, because this is word for word what this veteran was telling me. He's like, it's like they were laughing, and he's like, well, I grabbed the guy by the inside of his skull and I pulled him out. I had brains on my hands, and I was just like, what was that like? He's like, I had brains on my hands.
What do you think, bro?
So like, yeah, he had done that. And like, so there, when you go into the wilderness, when you sort of put yourself in a situation 20 miles out in the woods where there are no police, you only have to depend on solidarity and and random acts of kindness from strangers. And that's what happens on the AT. Like, everybody's afraid. Like, when I was planning to do it originally, people were like, you're going to bring a gun, right? And I'm like, no, because first of all, I don't want to carry one. And second of all, like, I am in less danger 20 miles in the woods than I am like sitting on my couch at home. If you look at murders and mayhem and all these terrible things, there's been a couple of murders that happened on the AT, but taken as a whole over the time, even though people pay more attention to it because it's a different environment, like it has a smaller murder rate than like the tiniest, most sleepy town in America.
Yeah.
So
plus you'd want like a survival knife or something. I would.
I had one.
Yeah, good. I'm sure you did. But a gun would be kind of almost like limited utility on that, because anything that's going to get you on the Appalachian Trail, you would need a really big gun to actually take it down, and you're not going to be carrying like people were thinking you'd probably be carrying like a 9 or a 45, and you'd need like a 454 Casull or like a 4570 for a bear.
Yeah. And I mean, a bear, there's black bear. I think the more dangerous spot is moose.
And you're not going to take a moose down with like anything smaller than like a 30-06.
No. There was apparently, by the way, this made it into the play as well. There's a hiker I heard about. I don't know if this was true, but he got the trail. I wouldn't be surprised if it was true, because crazy stories like this usually are true if you hear them about AT hikers. There was an old hiker that they named Moose Killer.
Oh no.
And it was because he was hiking in Maine, and it was during mating season, and a bull moose charged him. And the way he dealt with the situation was to run around a tree, smacking the bull moose in the head, like with his trekking poles, and it worked.
He must have been tired after that, man.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't kill the moose. Just eventually it was just like, okay,
it was
fuck
like
this.
I hate getting hit. My cousin borrowed my 4570 lever action to go moose hunting. It's a 4570. If you look at your middle finger, the bullet's about that size. But he took a moose and he tried to wheel cock the 4570 like in the westerns, but you need a special lever for that, and he didn't have it on there. So it just stopped, broke his 2 fingers, and the front sight post hit him in the nose. So he's got a horrible scar on his nose and 2 broken fingers.
Oh shit!
From that, I'm just like, yeah, dude, you can't do that.
So,
was my rifle okay?
Yeah. So anyway, like, my journey, kind of totally it totally reintroduced like my faith in the inherent goodness of humanity. Just in what I experienced, and like it was different. Like I had been abused emotionally pretty hard all throughout school, up until I got out of college, to where anytime I found myself, when I first started hiking down in the South, anytime I found myself around new people, I was always on edge because I was expecting them to just be horrible, just suck in every way possible. But as it turns out, like through hikers are really good people usually.
Yeah, who knew? Literally
Yeah,
everybody.
and it was my first time really being integrated into a community that was, that I had voluntarily chosen. The only two times I've been proud of where I live, aside from now, is on the Appalachian Trail and in New York. And both of those times, people overall were wonderful. And, my worst fears never materialized. And so like that has heavily influenced the way I approach people, and the way I approach the world and my philosophy in general. I suspect, because you've actually been in combat, you have a very different idea about humanity.
No, actually, not really. Like there's horror and there's bad people who are doing bad things, but the thing that kind of gives me faith in humanity and kind of to move forward, otherwise I would be more depressed than I already am, is that like so I've been to Afghanistan, Mali, Congo, Central African Republic, South Sudan, a couple other places. And while there were bad things happening to all of those people, things that I don't care to describe publicly, people were still people. I had a really great experience in Mali, outside of Timbuktu, where they have a salt caravan that goes into Timbuktu, because there's a salt mine outside of it. And it's Tuaregs who are mostly doing it, who are a tribal people. And they were bringing the salt in, and it's half camels, half trucks, and like they have like carts with car tires on them being pulled by like horses and donkeys and stuff. It's really weird. But this guy stopped to talk to us, and he stopped and he made us tea. We just had like a talk about life, and I realized I had more in common with that guy than you would really think. Because it was kind of funny though, because he was making a really punchy Maghrebi mint tea, and I didn't know you were supposed to put 2 things of sugar in for every thing of tea that he put in. And he's like, how do you take your tea straight? And it felt like somebody put a candy cane down my throat. He was just laughing. I'm like, you fucking. But like, like despite the horror, there's a lot of beauty in the world, and there's a lot of beauty in people. And if we overcome the systemic things that kind of separate us artificially, and the systemic things that cause us to do these horrific things to each other, I really believe that we can move kind of into a better age as a species.
I will agree 100% with that. I mean,
Yeah.
That's why I'm a communist.
Yeah. Like it is kind of like, it informs a lot of my left-wing ideology. Like something I saw on Twitter the other day was this guy told I think you might be a mutual of hers too, but they told a mutual of mine, tell me you've never taken a life without telling me. And I'm like, bro, you've never been within like 10,000 miles of combat. And it shows, because like people who are actually doing that don't like brag about it typically. Yeah. And I say typically because there's the Navy SEALs exist, but
sorry, by the way, I'm just giving that a fist.
Yeah, there's no war. Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of like one of the enduring things about like Marxian analysis, is that it kind of like boils down a lot of conflict to that. Sometimes it might oversimplify it, but yeah, essentially it's always the political systems that we're in that cause war and horror.
Yeah. I really wish that more people would pay attention to so intersectionalism has become kind of a bad meme.
Yeah,
at this
because
point.
people don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like what's really important, and I brought this up in one of those mass debates, was when they were like, what are you going to say to a TERF who's like, concerned about trans women reinforcing patriarchy? And I'm like, well, if she's a feminist, she should understand that kyriarchy trumps patriarchy and keep your head in the game.
Yeah.
Because so essentially the theory is with kyriarchy is that different hierarchies within societies, different systems of power, all hold each other up. Imagine you've got a table. Well, the table can't stand without legs. So what are the legs holding up the table of the current world order? Well, they are capitalism. They are white supremacy. It is patriarchy. And I'm going to say heteronormativity, though that kind of fits into patriarchy.
It's worth mentioning on its own.
Yeah. So it's basically like, what if you want to knock down the table, you can't just knock out one leg. You gotta take them all down. Because if you don't, those systems will just precipitate themselves. They will continue to replicate and to sort people into hierarchies of command and obedience. And when that happens, because power corrupts, the people at the top are going to start treating the people at the bottom like garbage, because that's just what our stupid monkey brains do when we are alienated from people. We think in terms of a hierarchy and reinforcing that hierarchy. So, and sometimes it can drive people so crazy that, for instance, I had a friend in New York. And he was an incredible rapper, like really, really good. Underground hip hop artist, loved his work. And we'd even had conversations like, we're sitting there getting high together. And he's like talking about, he's like, I don't understand like how white people who think, who care about, representations and why they make exceptions for black people. And I'm like, yeah, dude, man, that sucks. And then later he finally wound up unfriending me. And do you know what he unfriended me over? Because I confronted him when he said he would attack a trans man if she tried to hang with him.
Oh, that's
sad. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, do you not remember this conversation that we just had?
Well, in his defense, he was high.
Yeah. Well, not at the time we're fighting, but yeah, you're right. Maybe he just completely forgot.
Yeah. Well, I was high when I said that, Brent. Damn.
Yeah. Wow, you just rewrote my entire history with this guy.
Yeah. Got you, fam.
Yeah. But I remember he unfriended me and blocked me when I told him I would not give up on him.
Oh, well,
yeah. I don't know. Man. I don't know what the deal is with that, but anyway. So, as to relate this back to the subject,
you can retitle this after we're done.
Yeah. Brent and Bobby just talk about martial arts and the wilderness and war.
Yeah.
But no. To go back to Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
And that is something that I actually really like about Kreese and Johnny, and like they're all pretty enthusiastic about having women fight in their dojos, which is nice. And actually, so my Shihan, that's the term for a sensei who runs an entire dojo in Kyokushin. My Shihan, one of the reasons she broke initially from the Kyokushin community and sort of did her own thing was that it was a boys' club. And like, she didn't feel she was getting the respect she deserved as a Shihan, because, when she was doing it, like, first it was, okay, women can't train, only men can train. Okay, women can train, but they can't teach. Okay, so women can train and teach, but they can only teach women, not men. Okay, women can train and teach men, but they can only ever do kata, they can't fight. And so, like, my Shihan famously did a kumite, 100-man kumite. Kumites are important within Kyokushin. Like, this is 100 fights, 100 2-minute fights in a row, no rest, no water, nothing. You just go on against 100 different fresh opponents. Now, sometimes it's the same person, but they've had time to rest in between because they'll be cycling out opponents. I did one of these to get my black belt, and I forgot who I was after like fight 10. So my Shihan, she went in, and for a woman's right to fight, she fought she attempted the 100-man kumite, because that is the traditional way that a Kyokushin fighter moves from a fighter to a sensei. Is that they you don't have to pass it, but you have to attempt it. Masoyama was very good at fighting 100 people in a row. She got up into the high 60s. Like, she lost the use of one arm, lost the use of a leg, and kept fighting. And, you know, like, this is something that I've always remembered. And it was nice to see that reflected in Cobra Kai, even from the bad guys, like the evil Tang Sudo, whatever.
Yeah.
the
evil Koreans that come in, I guess.
Yeah.
I was waiting for them to say, like, we're from North Korea.
Yeah, it was be something like that.
Yeah.
There was like, yeah, so you know, they had the evil dojo. It was still run by a woman, and I felt that tracked to me, particularly at today's day and age.
Yeah.
Also, like, I don't know, so I feel like the show does that really well. I mean, obviously, there's no actual evil martial art out there.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. Maybe Kenpo.
Yeah, maybe Kenpo.
No, what's the Steven Seagal one?
Aikido.
Aikido.
I don't think that counts. Somebody tried that on me once.
Aikido.
Someone
is
really
like a step above Tai Chi.
Well, somebody really did try the wrist lock on me. So he grabbed my hand with both of his hands.
Uh-huh.
So I punched him in the face. And he stopped. He's like, oh man, no one's ever done that before. I'm like, no one's ever punched you in the face before. He's like, no. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, like, so there is a lot of cultish behavior and kind of chicanery in martial arts. You know, people get very attached to their senseis.
Yeah.
People get very attached to their style. And it's funny. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, because it's Gempt, if you're still here, let me find. Yeah. So we got this right here. I've always been skeptical about BJJ, considering someone could just stab you.
Yeah, I mean, like, someone could like pull out a 44 mag and shoot me in the face before I punched him too.
Yeah, you should be skeptical about BJJ, and I'm going to tell you why. There's a great video, again by Jesse the Karate Nerd, where he interviews Bill Superfoot Wallace.
Oh, he's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a very cool guy. Bill Wallace, like my first sensei Ron Bertram, he was talking about Bill Wallace. You know, that's how I first encountered the guy. Fun fact about Bill Superfoot Wallace: the reason he was so good with his unique fighting stance, where he would turn completely sideways, he was injured, and like he had his legs were injured, like in such a way that, or maybe it was like his back. But basically the only way he could get off his kicks was if he was standing completely sideways. And so like he just trained at that and got better and better and better at it. And so in the era before, what is it? Not Tough Man. In the era before UFC, like he was like the guy.
Pride and the other ones. Yeah, I remember what you're talking about.
His kicks were fucking phenomenal. And he developed that out of an injury. So I think that's really like one of the things that martial arts are all about. It's about maximizing your body and learning ways to make things like that work for you.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he was called in to observe the first UFC. And the first UFC, there were pretty much no rules.
It was Vale Tudo back then.
Yeah.
Basically.
and they called in a bunch of people. And the idea originally was that it was matching up different martial arts styles and seeing which one won. And what happened was that one of the kickboxers was fighting. Now Royce Gracie is going through this, and this was put on by the Gracies. So Royce Gracie is going through and, you know, double leg takedown, choke the guy out, double leg takedown, choke the guy out, you know, and like that's how he beat Ken Shamrock. I think he choked Ken Shamrock with his own gi. You know, but like one of the other fighters in there was a sumo wrestler. And what was really interesting was the sumo wrestler got kicked in the face by the kickboxer who was up against him. And, you know, I think he did like chip a tooth or something. His mouth is bleeding, obviously. But like the dude was fine, you know, but they called the fight and disqualified him. And Bill Wallace was watching that and was like, wait, why are you getting rid of it? And then he looks over and he sees Royce Gracie winning every fight with Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And what is Royce Gracie going to do against that sumo wrestler?
Shake his hand. Very nice.
Yeah, exactly. Because his style was completely trumped by, you know, granted, I don't think sumo is the best fighting art.
No. Well, I mean, like, I've always
like
wanted
rock, paper, scissors.
I've always wanted to know how they came up with sumo. Like, what conversation during the Sengoku Jindai was that? Like, was like Oda Nobunaga sitting with Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and they're going like, "Bro, look at that fat guy. Yeah, bro, but look at that fat guy, bro. What if they like pushed each other, bro? You know, is that how that happened?
I think sumo actually has a religious history.
Oh, okay. So it was like
they are supposed to be reenacting the fight between two gods.
Oh, so it was two priests who were sitting around going, "Bro, look at that dude."
I have done sumo before, actually.
Yeah. It's impressive. I'm not taking anything away from them. I'm just joking around.
I sumoed till I puked. And it was really funny, actually, because like after I talked about, because I puked twice after my black belt, one of the head of my men's division was like, he's like, how did your your kumite work out? And I'm like, well, I puked twice. He's like, I know what that looks like. Because I spent a long history, like as an athlete, I've gotten to a point where I can push my body beyond my physical limits.
Right.
And what happens when you do that, like basically like if your blood doesn't have enough oxygen in it, your heart starts, your lungs, they start pulling oxygen from your stomach. Like from the blood in your stomach, which means there's less blood in your stomach, meaning you puke. And so like what happened with me was I was on a retreat with Soka Gakkai, my Buddhist organization. You know, we were in the woods basically like having a retreat. Like my wife was worried about it because it was up in the Catskills, and she's like, "You're gonna go. Do you know these people that well? You're going to go into the woods with a cult."
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll leave if, you know, they're pissing me off or anything. But no, we like had like canoe races and did capture the flag. But because they're Japanese, we're like, we're going to do sumo. And so they organized us by the areas we were from, because we were from all over the country. And the thing was that I was the biggest guy from my district by far, but I was the smallest guy out of all the other biggest guys. And like, if you've ever encountered Soka Gakkai, their brand of Buddhism is like the most relentlessly positive form of Buddhism you will ever see. Like they call it like Buddhism of the sun. And it's really like that. It's basically like the whole thing that the sect is about developing, you know, and reaching your Buddha nature by engaging with obstacles and refusing to be defeated. So here I am getting fucking destroyed in these like impromptu sumo matches with people who had like 150 pounds on me. And I remember like, but I was just like, no, I'm not giving up. I'm fighting every single one of these as hard as I absolutely can. Nam Yoho Renge Kyo. And then, eventually I'm just like sitting there, like in the field panting. And, Gonzalo is his name. He comes up to me and he's like, hey, so, how you doing? And I'm just like, yeah, hang on. And then it just like ran over to the woods and puked.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But anyway, so like, that's sumo is interesting. And I guess it kind of speaks again to our, like, it seems to me a lot of the time that reactionaries and people that don't know a lot about fighting think there's only one way to be powerful, but clearly power changes as the context changes. You don't want to send a bunch of black belts into like a military formation if they haven't trained with weapons, and if they haven't endured military stuff. Similarly, and I'm going to say this, Bobby, soldiers should not be fighting black belts.
No, probably not. A black belt would trounce a soldier because the soldier is trained to fight in like a squad with guns. I mean, if the black belt's trying to use karate on a soldier and the soldier has a M249 saw, then I'm going to bet on the soldier on that one.
Or, as Jempt brought up earlier, a single knife.
A single knife. If he's got a single knife, let's go. Yeah. Or careful if they're a ranger, they'll have a tomahawk.
Yeah. There was actually, I'm forgetting which one. This might have actually be related to the Dojo Wars or something. But there was a time that I heard this on the Dollop podcast. But basically, I don't remember exactly what the setup was. But I think it had something to do with like drug dealing. And one of the guys, like, he went off to like a meeting and he brought his like muscle at this particular meeting at black belt. And the other guy for his muscle brought a Navy SEAL, and the Navy SEAL got obliterated.
Jesus. Well, the Navy SEAL I wasn't expecting to actually fight. He was probably like, oh yeah, okay, I'll come to your meeting with you. And all of a sudden, like, the guy gets like a spinning round kick to his face.
Yeah, because the black belt was like, I'm gonna fucking do this.
The black belt was probably a little scared too. He's like, Navy SEAL, God, I gotta kick this guy really hard, really fast.
Yeah.
Navy SEAL's like, I've been retired for 5 years, and this is the best job ever.
Hang on here for a second, by the way, because SAF 911. The first UFC fight was the one with the sumo wrestler. Getting kicked in the face. He was actually fighting a Kyokushin. Yes. And Savage guy with some Vale Tudo.
Sabate. It's a weird martial art.
I'm not too familiar with any of those martial arts, but that's
Shudo is a weird thing that developed out of catch wrestling in Japan, and it was like Japanese wrestling promoters wanted their guys to actually be hard, so they made them actually fight, and that was Shudo. Vale Tudo is Brazilian cage fighting, so like no rules cage fighting. And,
because Brazil.
And Savat is French kickboxing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, you'll just surrender.
Yeah. Well, the French also developed a really weird martial art, and I can't remember its name, but they're kind of trying to bring it back. And it was when men would carry canes. So they merged sport fencing with boxing. And they made a martial art around beating the crap out of somebody with a walking cane if they accosted you on the street.
That's actually really effective and a great idea. I have been wanting to get like a freaking shillelagh.
I know a guy.
You do? You know a shillelagh guy?
I know a bunch of guys actually. Yeah. Well, you can make your own too. What you need is Irish blackthorn wood, and all you do is you take the thorns off of it because that's illegal, and you just polish it. All you need is a sufficiently long branch.
Nice.
I could make. Actually, I ran into an Irishman in Boma in the Congo who made one out of ironwood, and he's walking around with a shillelagh, and I'm like, "Why the shillelagh?" He's like, "It's a shillelagh or an AK," and I don't like the AK. I'm like, Jesus. Like, okay. Yeah.
By the way, since we're talking about wood, and you've always got your cigar, I'm showing off my fucking Gandalf pipe.
Yeah, bro. You should definitely try this brand of tobacco. I actually had it written down because I gave it to a mutual friend of ours, Rico Rants.
Oh, I love Rico.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
great guy. He's actually, I've retweeted it. A bunch of other people have retweeted it. He's actually in need of some mutual aid. I'll send you the link.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Fourth generation 1882 pipe tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
Try that.
So, put it into the secret chat.
Yeah,
The ones that the scrubs here are not. No, I'm kidding you guys.
I'll shoot it to you on Discord.
Yeah. By the way, so
yeah,
this is actual like real briarwood.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Africa, which is
that's really cool.
Yeah, I love it. It's yeah. Well, the thing was, I looked at it. I liked the look. It was out of my price range. But first, when I was like, oh fuck, that's briarwood, and then I was like, oh fuck, this was made in Italy, because so was I. I wound up having to get it. And yeah, I'll probably, when I finish talking with you, I'll probably pop out on my porch and
I myself am chewing on a Nicaraguan cigar right now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we're all slowly killing ourselves with voluntary poisoning.
hey man, if you can raw dog life and do it without any like nicotine, alcohol, or any other substances, I take my hat off to you. I can't. Like, I'm sorry, brothers. Yeah. There's a reason Sartre was on mescaline like 24/7.
I didn't know that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, dude, you know his lazy eye?
Oh yeah.
That wasn't like a congenital thing. That was because he did so many hallucinogens, his eye got fucked up. Like, he was like, when he was sober, he would see crabs out of the corner of his eye, like crawling all over the place, because he was just doing mescaline like all the time.
Wow.
Yeah, like
he did so much hallucinogens.
It messed up his eye. Yeah, bro. Like if you look at him as like a very young man, he didn't have it, or it wasn't as bad. But like when he started doing the drugs, it started drifting. He also tried to live up to the toxic French masculinity thing during the war. It's a funny story where he wanted to pick up women during the occupation. And he's like, what do French people like? Cheese. What's hard to get right now? Cheese. So he'd get really smelly Gruyere and like Limburger cheese and like put it on his table and leave the doors open to get women to come in. And then he said he was going to recruit them for the resistance, but I think that was BS, and I doubt it ever worked.
No, I just like some cheese, please.
Yeah. Well, I also don't think like even French women, I don't think they like go like, that smells like cheese in that suspiciously open doored apartment. Let me just walk in by myself. I don't think that was a thing even in the 40s. Like,
yeah.
And it's more
was it with Sartre? Like, yeah, he wanted Camus to have sex with his wife or something.
Well, like he and Simone de Beauvoir had kind of like an open, like not like institutional marriage, but they were paramours for their whole lives. And she came on to Camus, and then Sartre got really angry at Camus because he turned her down. And he's like, I can't do it. You're like with Sartre, he's my best friend, and he's like, what? My wife's not good enough for you? You.
Yeah. So anyway, to kind of go back to Cobra Kai here. The final season, well, not the final, because there's going to be another one where they're going to go to. Is that World Martial Arts Tournament is that a real tournament?
No,
I didn't think it was.
But... And I was mentioning it while you were away. It's super sus that the wealthy Southern California town has like bare knuckle near death matches with like the kids in the rec center. Like, yeah. Like my fan theory is that they're like broadcasting that on like an illegal pay-per-view to some.
And not only that, but like nobody calls the police.
Yeah,
like, they had that happen like one time.
Yeah, yeah, like white people, man.
Yeah. Well, and then like I remember, what was it? The wife, Daniel's wife, like she was all mad at him for rightly getting into a ridiculous like. It wasn't ridiculous, but being manipulated by a
karate dojo
by Lawrence, and like ruining her charity prospects.
Yeah. She's like, you're a millionaire, leave it alone.
And then, she's totally, by all rights, that's exactly. She's like the most sensible person in that show. But then she decides to forgive him because she flies back to Ohio and gets in a random redneck fight.
A redneck bar fight with the daughter. The daughter comes in and bails her out. That's like some Maury stuff. Like, you don't know me. You don't know my life. You don't know me. Oh man. I've only ever actually been in half of a bar fight in my life. And I go to a lot of bars where I won a boxing tournament. I won a boxing tournament, and I go to this bar, and the happy hour is 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. So that gives you idea. So we're throwing him back, and this guy sitting next to me is like, "You think because you're a boxer, you're tough?" I'm like, "Well, yeah."
Yeah.
So he reaches back to like Alabama to throw this hook, and he like throws this looping hook, and I just ducked back, and he was so drunk that he threw the hook and he fell over and passed out on the floor, and I'm like, well,
Half of a bar fight.
half a bar fight. That's about it.
Yeah. Haymaker. Was it a hook or was it a haymaker?
It was he was really drunk and he was flailing his arm.
Okay, so it wasn't even really a punch.
No, he didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, it's always if you ever want to know if a guy knows how to fight or not, watch how he makes a fist.
Yeah.
Like if he does this, he doesn't know how.
No, not at all.
If he does this,
yeah, a little bit.
then be worried.
Or if he extends his fingers like really long and like and you hear the knuckles and shit pop, all the calcium deposits, then you're in a little bit of trouble too. It's like crack. Like, oh man, like I broke my middle knuckle on my right hand on a dude's hip. Oof. It's actually and it's actually a little duller than my left ones.
Anyway, like Cobra Kai with their whole California town that is inexplicably
karate gang warfare.
Yeah, just I mean, again, that makes sense for Chicago.
Yeah.
Because it's Chicago.
Yeah.
But like nobody, I don't see anyone under the California sun being obsessed with teenagers brutalizing each other.
My favorite is that Daniel doesn't know that Terry Silver lives in the same town that he does. Like the whole time. He's like, my God, Terry Silver showed up. It's like, dude, he lives in a mansion like 20 minutes from you. Like, how did you not?
Oh, and by the way, I really felt like I hope they do more with him. Yeah. The furniture store guy.
I think he passed away.
Oh shit, he's dead?
Yeah, they said like I think he got COVID, and that's why they wrote him out.
I was like, that character got done dirty.
He did. His whole story. Well, he got the paint. He got like a Renoir out of the dude's house at the end. He's like, oh well, gotta go.
Yeah,
It's also weird that Terry Silver has a collection of like ancient Japanese swords in his house, and like no one thought he was a bad guy. Like here's my room of ancient samurai weapons.
Well, like with Terry. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but I think I have the same haircut as Terry now.
Yeah, you do actually.
That's how you know it's me, Terry Silver, and Defender Strange from the Multiverse of Madness.
He did have that haircut,
and you know that Defender Strange is morally compromised because he has this haircut.
Well, I got called a Nazi for having an undercut one time. So.
Oh, you did? Did you have the beautiful ponytail?
No, I was in the army, man. So I had like the actual SS cut, and I was walking down the street. I was walking down the streets in DC, and there was a Unite the Right rally that night, and I didn't know. And all of a sudden, like this lady's yelling Nazi, and I like look around, and like I'm like, where's the Nazi? And like, oh no, I'm the Nazi.
Oh, you're just yet another victim of the woke mob cancel culture.
I was, really. Well, it was also Comic-Con that night, so I kind of ducked into like a group of Marvel characters and
go hang out with the nerds. The nerds are the best.
Well, I was wondering why in the noodle shop I was in there was a bunch of people from Death Note, and then I figured it out pretty quick.
There was one of my favorite memes actually was like Death Note memes are perfect. I actually kind of hate Death Note. I think it's terrible and highly overrated.
I wasn't a fan either.
Yeah, but like there's some really great Death Note memes, and my two favorite. One was one that was actually written about me. Because if you guys will remember, one of the ways a lot of people became aware of me on the internet was I accused Destiny of pizza tactics during debate.
Oh, Jesus.
Because I pointed out, and by the way, for the record, I didn't actually accuse him of that. I used the pizza as a jumping off point that online debate, you can fuck with someone by fidgeting or doing something very conspicuous while they are talking, so that the eyes and the attention goes away from them and their point and onto you, even though you're not saying anything. And I've seen this debate tactic used. I saw it used by Donald Trump against Hillary Clinton. There was
Yeah.
this whole bit where he was constantly fiddling with his mic and making weird faces and shit. And it was so every fucking eye would be on him and nobody would listen to Hillary. There was a similar thing that was done by like that suspect sushi guy who I believe I did not get re-invited onto the Dylan Burns podcast because I called him out for being a fucking fascist.
Oh, geez.
And then of course he was at January 6th.
So you were right.
Yeah. Oh, I was 100% right. You know, like I said, that dude was a fucking asshole. And like, yeah, the Dylan Burns hasn't been like awful to me since then. He came on my my show with him and Ben Burgess. So yeah, but he hasn't had me on since then. And Dylan, if you're listening, that's why I believe you haven't had me on. Not because you haven't thought about it, not because of any other reason. Obviously, that is the only reason, because I was right about Suspect Sushi being a fucking Nazi.
Justice for Brent and the shadow ban.
And the shadow ban from the Hippy Dippy Round Table.
Yeah. Hashtag end the shadow ban.
Oh man. Okay, I love you, Bobby. So anyway, like, so you have Kreese.
Yeah.
And Kreese is basically he's a homeless guy running a cult.
Yeah, basically.
And you know, he's
somehow still affords a cigar, which is like $30 in California.
Yeah. Well, he's all about appearances. And then plus when he takes over Johnny's lease, which why?
Yeah,
like I know they were like, oh, he made a better deal with the with the landlord. When have you ever known a landlord to let somebody like take over a lease and move in without a fucking background check?
Yeah, right. That's kind of weird.
He would have run a credit check on Kreese at least.
You would think, right? Like,
yeah.
I still think my only issue with the Kreese character is that I still think it would be better if it came out that he was never actually in the military.
I agree.
I think that would be better writing, like that he was full of crap the whole time.
I think Kreese being full. Well, so he's actually a good fighter.
Yeah.
So I would, but not. I would agree. I think him being like a stolen valor kind of guy.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Like, you could be a good fighter and not be in the military. I think the story they did last season where like he had to fight his commanding officer over a pit of snakes for the entertainment of the Viet Cong was a little excessive.
Yeah, that was a bit. That was the one I was watching. I was like, oh look, they've been stopped by the heroes of the heroic soldiers of the Viet Minh.
She's okay, Jane Fonda, Jesus. But yeah, and then. He improbably is like friends with like a millionaire who didn't dodge the draft, and
a millionaire who didn't dodge the draft and was totally like an innocent soul before he got involved with Kreese. Yeah, and then somehow grew up to be this weirdo psychopath.
and then like he like buries it for years, and then like karate is like a drug that like he's like, yeah, I've been clean and sober and karate free for 25 years, and I'm dating this vegan girl, and we go to Whole Foods. And then Kreese is like, you love karate, and then he starts kicking his wine in his basement. He's like, I can't stop, I need the karate.
Karate works like bath salts.
It does. Well, I mean, he goes from like dating like a hippie girl and like not eating gluten to slamming a 25-year-old Japanese whiskey, pulling out a samurai sword, and fighting an Okinawan sensei in his house in the space of like 6 months.
A famously brutal Okinawan sensei that I knew. I fucking knew they were going to have him win in that because Chosen is so fucking cool, but he's not the main character. No. He is a supporting character, so he cannot defeat the villain.
Well, they gave him good handicaps because he was drunk out of his mind, and the other guy had a sword. So,
fair enough.
So it's like, you know, like if I were to like fight Mike Tyson and I had like a chainsaw and he had like just slammed like half a kilo of his own marijuana, then I might have a chance. You know? Like,
fair enough. Chosen is the best. We love him. And it also proves that Miyagi-Do can be badass. So what? Yeah, but as much as I love Chosen, I've got to say, like, okay, this was a big mistake that they actually made. I feel like from a narrative flow kind of thing was when they had Chosen and Johnny fight
Yeah.
like a random guy who was with the evil dojo
With the in-sync hair.
Yeah. And here's the thing. What should have happened if you're going to do that?
Yeah.
And I would never have put them in that situation because Chosen is too badass.
Yeah.
But if you got Chosen and Johnny, if you want to build up the threat of that dojo, it's not that it takes the two of them to put this guy, to put down this guy.
Yeah.
He should have dominated both of them at the same time. But they didn't do that because even though you build up the threat, they're also kind of nerfing their two most badass fighters.
Right.
So like they did kind of like a half-ass thing where it's like, oh, we won, but like it took the two of us and all of this stuff to. But the culmination wasn't even about the senseis. Like it was about the kids and the various karate dojos, being pitted against each other. Yeah. And for some reason, the martial arts organization didn't realize that, the new Cobra Kai was a crazy cult.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not probably putting that on their Facebook. They're probably, on the Google, it's probably like, come to Cobra Kai, have your kid learn how to fight, and and they've got the nice like gamer lighting and stuff when you go in. They're not going to be like immediately like, you will kill for Cobra Kai. You will die for Cobra Kai. You have no name.
I will also say, by the way,
Yeah.
Cobra Kai, the way it is, I would not join that Cobra Kai.
Oh, the fancy gamer lighting?
Yeah. No, I went in because you know what that reminded me of more than anything?
What's that?
Fucking Tiger Schulman's. Now, I'm not going to say anything about Tiger Schulman himself. Obviously, he was a very good fighter and came back and, founded a fucking dojo empire in New York. But when I was going around to all these different dojos in New York, trying to find the one that I eventually like where I was going to train and where I was going to get my black belt at last. And I tried a bunch of them. I tried like a Kung Fu place. I tried a Taekwondo place. I tried Kyokushin. I tried Tiger Schulman's. And when I went into Tiger Schulman's, I realized that I was not learning martial arts. I was in an exercise class.
Yeah, that's basically, it's like Taibo.
Yeah, like you're in there and like the senseis aren't senseis, they're personal trainers.
Yeah.
And they wear black belts, but that's about it. And I think I've said this on the stream before, like if I'm going to like really dedicate myself to the pursuit of a martial art for at least 4 years, for me a little bit longer than 4 years, to really get up to the Shodan level or beyond, I have to have in the back of my mind that maybe someday these people might teach me to throw a fireball. Like I don't have to throw the fireball, but there's got to be just that little Hintergedanke in my thoughts that's like, You
going to George Dillman's class?
Yeah.
I'll put this out publicly on the off chance that anyone who knows George Dillman is listening to this. Mm-hmm. I will fight George Dillman, and I will put up about 10 grand for that fight, and he can use his no-touch knockout on me, and then I get to punch him.
Yeah. Well, that's a big thing in China right now.
Yeah. Well,
isn't there that one like the MMA comedian guy? They make him fight in clown makeup.
So he's not a comedian. Zhu Zhaodong, I think, is how you pronounce his name. He's an MMA guy. He's like over the hill. He'll fully admit this, but like a lot of the Chinese traditional martial arts have degenerated into what you're talking about, where it's kind of more of a exercise program and like a cultural preservation thing. Mm-hmm. And he's like, that's his thing. But he's like, don't market this as if you're going to fight with it. Yeah. And then he's beaten up like a bunch of Kung Fu masters and a couple Tai Chi guys. And that lowered his social credit rating in China because they want to preserve the Chinese cultural martial arts, and this decadent Western martial art is coming in and beating up their traditional guys. So he can't use public transportation. He has to wear the clown makeup. Mm-hmm. But then his social credit rating actually went up a little bit this year because he beat up a Japanese dude.
Oh, good for you.
And they don't like the Japanese.
There's actually a video that I actually really like. If you Google, I think Kyokushin versus Kung Fu.
Yeah.
There is a Kyokushin match between a Kyokushin Kai and a Kung Fu practitioner.
Right.
And they're both 10. But it's like this epic, like in the video, it's like this blown up epic fucking match. And like, you can tell these kids are like being like egged on by their various nations.
I'm going to drop this video in the chat. You should watch it at your leisure. It's that Chinese guy that I was talking about, but I really want to watch this thing. I hope they do more events like this, because they built like the Mortal Kombat set for him to fight this dude. And then the Chinese kung fu master was like, I won't fight in the ring because it's not designed for, it's too deadly for the ring. So they had to fight on the entranceway.
Never trust anyone who tells you they can't fight in a certain position because they're too deadly.
Yeah. Somebody tried to tell me like boxing wasn't dangerous in a street fight because there's too many rules. And I'm like, dude, like, what do you think I'm going to do to you if there's no rules and referee? Like, like,
yeah.
Because there was a guy in one of my gyms who he was definitely not there to learn how to box. We were in New York. He wore a tracksuit. Really liked capicola, if you get my drift. And he taught me how to sneak in an elbow on the right straight. Like,
nice.
Actually, there was another guy in there. We were talking about like toxic masculinity guys. He was always pretending he was connected. And he'd always be like, "Yo, dog, you know who I work for, dog? You know who I work for, dog?" And my friend Salvi, who was the tracksuit guy, one day got fed up with that. He's like, "You work for fucking UPS. Like, shut the fuck up."
I don't know. That's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Oh shit,
man, he was great.
So we got here, Chinese martial arts suffered from the Cultural Revolution. Yeah, they probably did. Now that I think about it,
they took down a lot of the like monasteries and stuff where they would teach the kung fu. Yeah, they cleaned them out.
Which is a damn shame, actually, because I mean, arguably, martial arts, at least traditional martial arts, as we understand them today, like pretty much began in China. The story was that. They were initially taught to Chinese monks by Bodhidharma.
Yeah.
And supposedly the reason why he did it was because he got to the monastery and like all the monks were like schlubs. Like they were like really weak and didn't have any sort of an exercise routine. So supposedly Bodhidharma, a famous Buddhist figure who is referred to as the bearded barbarian because he came from India, like went out into the jungle and like would just like watch two monkeys fight and watch like a crane and all this shit, and then was just like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that. And told the monks to do this because he saw a monkey do it.
And in Europe, like boxing and wrestling go back to like classical antiquity at the very least.
Oh yeah, I mean that was huge in Greece.
Yeah,
there was wrestling and forms of love that cannot be described on YouTube without being demonetized.
Yeah. And then Roman boxing. That's like our debate with the gentleman about deontology a while back. But the Romans had the boxing, but instead of like padded gloves, they wore the cestus, which is like a steel glove.
Yeah, I know about the cestus because of Elden Ring and Dark Souls.
Yeah, there you go. And there was a rule where if it was a draw at the end of whatever the appointed time was, they would have to stand and trade blows one after the other until somebody fell over.
Evening, Void. Thank you so much. Welcome to the stream.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be talking about.
It kind of went off the rails a little bit. It's probably my fault.
Yeah. Well, we've just been fucking telling stories, and this is because I have no adult friends except for Bobby.
Hey, buddy.
So we've been talking about the most recent season of Cobra Kai. As I said before, like both as a writer and as a martial artist, Cobra Kai, I love it. It reminds me so much of like when I was 18 and studying martial arts really seriously for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a ton of nostalgia involved in it, and they've gotten even better and more authentic with their you know, their portrayal of martial arts over the seasons. But also, like, it just gets these like incredibly cringy moments where I'm really enjoying the show, but it literally makes me cringe so hard I have to turn off the TV.
For me, the really cringy part was I think it's about like a quarter of the series is the Miguel character goes to Mexico to find his dad.
Oh
and
yeah.
he winds up being like a random drug lord. I'm like,
I feel like I missed an entire episode. That I didn't miss an episode, but
yeah.
like, because he went from like, my dad's possibly a drug lord to, oh wait,
Yeah.
no, this other awesome guy is my dad. Oh shit, that guy's
also a drug lord. Yeah, everybody he meets in Mexico is a drug lord. He never meets. It's either a drug lord or some random Australian who's trying to rob him.
Yeah. How did that even happen?
Yeah, I guess that didn't make any sense. That the whole Mexico arc was bad. The only good part is when Johnny fights a cage fighter and he has to cheat and use a chili pepper on the dude's eyes.
That was really cool. Yeah. Well, and I like the pepper eating contest too.
Yeah.
Especially since I am. Have you noticed that Johnny's son? What's that character's name?
Robbie. He's a
Robbie.
He's a Bob. He's a member of the Council of Bobs.
So Robbie, as a character, he's really fun. I like him as a character. A little basic, but otherwise good. But like Robbie, it feels like they took a 90s actor and character and transposed him into the thing, to the point to where he's got like random hoodlum friends.
Yeah. He looks like a Supercuts ad from like 1997.
A Supercuts ad, but like straight out of like 1995.
Yeah.
And no one brings this up at all. At no point.
Well, in his defense, he can scrap. So if you make fun of his hair, that might set him off.
Yeah. Well, that and this, by the way, like I think I said this the last time we talked about Cobra Kai. But one of the cool things about Cobra Kai, from a writer's standpoint, you know, nerd here, it is literally a classic farce.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, the drama relies entirely upon the audience having a superior position, and each of the characters having an incomplete understanding of the situation. Normally on stage, what they would do this is they used it for comedy, and they'd use it by entering and exiting from doors. Yeah. And this is, interestingly enough, this is where the term French scene comes from, because a lot of the French theater, they didn't really break it up into scenes and acts like you see it in like a modern day theater. They break it up into whenever anyone enters or exits a door. So this random theater nerd stuff. Also, Stanislavski, the guy who basically invented modern acting.
I love Stanislavski.
Okay, good. I don't know if anybody's ever pointed this out or thought about it before. I'm sure somebody probably has. Stanislavski was absolutely influenced by Marxism.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing, if you guys... Okay, so I went to college initially to learn to be an actor. And I stopped doing that because I'm a much better writer, but I still, you know, I've acted on occasion, and I feel like what I learned helped me write better characters. But like, if you learn Stanislavski's method, the thing about it is that it is based around your given circumstances. If you are a Marxist or you've talked to Marxists, you will see there is a similarity between that and material circumstances. So in the way that Marx's dialectical materialism analysis of history focuses on the physical, the actors, or the workers, or the person's relationship to the means of production. If you just take that mode, the dialectical mode of thinking, and you shift it over to an actor, and suddenly, like, you know, they're teaching you, like, okay, you are not playing a character who's different from you. You are playing yourself under other circumstances. And I really feel like there is no way that Stanislavski did not get that from Marx.
No, he definitely did. See, you're gonna hate me, but
Mm-hmm.
my favorite playwright is Bertolt Brecht.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and
Famous communist.
yeah, well, definitely. But his philosophy of acting was to gesture vaguely at the character that you were playing. Like you were supposed to play the character as if you're doing a bad impression of the character telling somebody a story.
Yeah,
Him and Waiting for Godot, Beckett, right?
Beckett.
Yeah.
Yeah. A fun fact about Beckett, he wound up actually driving Andre the Giant to school.
Did he really?
Yeah, young Andre the Giant couldn't fit on the school bus. He was too big.
Yeah.
So Samuel Beckett drove him like to school and back every day in his car.
Jesus.
I really like Beckett. So Brecht, I respect Brecht.
Yeah,
I like what he talked about, his whole concept of epic theater, though I don't think epic theater is actually epic.
Yeah, it's a weird name, isn't it?
It's a very weird name. It sounds great. I would love to see epic theater. I just know that Beckett's method of theater is not epic theater, even though that's what it's called. But yeah, so guys, if you've never seen a Brecht show, like the whole point of Brecht's work is to teach people to critique the social and economic system that they live in by drawing attention to the artificiality of the play.
Yeah.
Normally in drama, the goal is to get you wrapped up in the story to the point where you forget you are watching a play.
Right.
You're buying into the illusion. Brecht's whole thing is don't let people do that. Constantly mess with them, show them the backstage, make sure that the actors act badly.
Have you seen Babylon Berlin?
I have not.
There's a great scene in Babylon. It's a Weimar show about a policeman in like Weimar, Berlin. And there's a great scene where he's trying to prevent the assassination of a French ambassador who's going to Three Penny Opera, which is a Brecht play.
Yeah.
And the French guy is not prepared for that style of theater. And he actually thwarts the assassination by leaving early. He's like, I can't stand this shit. Like that's an aggressively French reaction to Brecht. But if you are going to sample Brecht, do the Three Penny Opera. It's the most accessible one, I think.
So in college, I played Poseidon in Trojan Women.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was the Sartre version of Trojan Women.
Yeah.
And I had to deliver the most heavy-handed fucking speech at the end. I hated it. I love playing Poseidon.
Yeah.
Because I'm was really heavily influenced by modern fantasy, and so I could embody this god of the sea. Plus, Poseidon is obviously the best Greek god.
Just saying, his wife's cheating on him with the god of war behind his back. Just saying.
Yes, granted.
Army Navy
also,
rivalry.
I mean, Poseidon. Wait, no. You think of Hephaestus?
No, I'm pretty sure Venus is married to Poseidon.
No, she's married to Hephaestus.
Oh, okay, my bad. Never mind.
Yeah, no, Poseidon is the god of the sea. He's Zeus's brother.
Oh, one less for the army then.
Yeah, don't fuck with Poseidon. He's the one that like made Odysseus's life a living hell.
Have you seen how many islands there are in the Aegean Sea?
But yeah, so like Poseidon. So I'm playing Poseidon, and this is like I should have known I was a playwright when this happened.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there trying to deliver Sartre's thing, and what I really hated there was the final monologue that I had that capped the end of the play. Because Trojan Women is about the Trojan women at the end of the Trojan War when they're being taken off, basically captured by the Greeks and taken somewhere else. And the way that the thing ended, I'm going to try to remember this. It was like my final monologue was like along the lines of like, idiots, you stupid bestial mortals, making war, burning cities, violating tombs and temples, bringing suffering upon yourselves. Can't you see? War will kill you, all of you. Oh, shit, I remembered that.
There you go.
Yeah. I had to deliver that. And I was just like, oh, Jesus Christ, Sarge. There's no subtlety here. So I went to my director and said, can I rewrite this? I think I can do a much better monologue than this. And she's like, no, you cannot rewrite Sarge.
I actually played the bellhop in No Exit, which I think is his better play.
No Exit's phenomenal.
Yeah, the director actually let me smoke a cigarette on stage in one scene, because there's like three scenes where the bellhop comes in, and the last scene I got the director to let me undo the bellhop jacket a little bit, and like tilt the hat like I'd just been doing something else. I walked in smoking a cigarette, delivering my lines. Like, what's up, damned souls? How you doing?
Were you smoking an actual cigarette?
I was smoking an actual cigarette, and they let me get away with that.
They never should have done that. You're in a fucking theater, dude.
I know, right?
Like that is explicitly illegal.
Yep.
This is the second show that I was in was Cabaret, which explains one of the reasons why I'm fucking obsessed with the rise of the alt-right.
Bro, like, watch Babylon Berlin and we'll do a series on it. Like, just put that down on your list.
I will definitely watch it. But like, yeah, when we were doing it, we were doing very much a Weimar Republic, Germany, and cigarettes were huge. And we were a bunch of high schoolers. And also, again, it is absolutely illegal to have an actor smoke real cigarettes on the stage, because it's fire in a theater, in a crowded theater.
I think I lit it on the stage too with the Zippo, so that was even worse.
We had fake cigarettes made for us with like, they went as far as to like make the cigarette to put like a little shiny thing on the end so it would look like it would glow in the lights. Yeah, and it would they fill them with talcum powder so you could blow and you would blow a plume of smoke. That was fun.
What I should have done was flicked it into the audience, now that I think about it.
What was also fun, so okay, so I have to come out about this, by the way.
This is a safe space, Brenton.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. I have to come out about this. So I thought for 2 to 3 years in high school that fedoras were the coolest and best hat ever.
I will defend you on that a little bit, because as I'm looking behind me, I actually have a Panama hat I bought in Panama. Yeah. There was like a golden time that Zoomers don't understand, from like 2006 to about 2009, where they were kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that like I learned how to like wear a fedora, and I had like from the play Cabaret, which was the first major play that I was in, Cabaret and Dracula. I learned how to do the thing where you flick it up and like it basically like rides up your hand and onto your head and all that shit. I wanted to wear one to prom, but I couldn't find one. And it was only slightly thereafter that I was like, wait, what? Fedoras aren't cool anymore? What the hell? I'm still mad because most of the people who made the fedora look as bad as it did were wearing fucking trilbies.
Yeah.
They were not wearing fedoras. I blame ska.
Like, it's all a fedora, Bob. And I'm like, well, and the
Bob? I'm missing you, Bob. Well, while I wait for Bob to come back, guys, I will also mention, like, as far as like fedoras go, I wound up buying a fedora for my father-in-law. And I thought that I had bought a large enough fedora because I tested it on my own head, and I have a giant fuck off.
There was a time too when they were wearing the women's hat. That's like,
Bobby, are you back again? Are you gone? It's like somebody like squeezed like the hose of the conversation with Bobby, and then they let it go, and we heard a bunch of words, and then pinched it down again. All right, so by the way, also fun fact: the fedora was originally a woman's hat, and it was worn in a play by a character named Princess Fedora, which is where the name comes from. So this is a weird show where I started off talking about like trans rights and masculinity, segued into, martial arts and war stories. And now we're on to me defending my fedora wearing. But anyway, my father-in-law could not wear it. So I kept it. And I eventually got him a large enough one because, good God, even bigger head. And so, like, I remembered I wore it to like one party in New York. And what was really funny, oh, you're backstage, Bobby? Hey, Bob.
Yeah, my DNS reset. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. I don't know if you heard, but like, you went out,
Yeah.
and then you came back, but you were talking really fast.
Yeah,
And then like you
because it all loaded in at the same time. But they started wearing the women's trilby, which was like even smaller, and that was how you knew you were dealing with a real like incel weirdo. And it just ruined it for me because I legitimately have a real Panama hat and I've got like 2 fedoras and I can't wear any of them.
Mm-hmm. Because everyone will think you're a Reddit moderator.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
So okay, so Bobby, we're coming up on 2.5 hours here.
Oh wow,
so,
man! I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep you that long.
No, that's awesome. You know, I'm very glad. I've missed talking to you.
Yeah, always good to shoot this stuff, man.
Yeah, so I mean, let's wrap this up. We got about 15 minutes left before we hit the 2.5 hour mark. The first thing that I want to ask you, so one of the things that I want to see about doing in this upcoming debate is I want to see if I can pull this guy a little bit back from the edge.
Yeah.
Because apparently I've talked to some people that know him, and apparently he did not used to be homophobic or transphobic to the extent that he is now. He would previously say like, you know, like it wasn't his business.
Right.
He's really only very recently taken this weird turn into like, you know, obviously, you know, you've got your opinions about his politics.
Yeah.
What do you think the best tactic is to deal with that? Because I would love it, you know, if he came out of this debate, he doesn't have to do it in the debate, obviously. But if he moved away from that particular type of rhetoric post-debate, in your opinion, the dude I'm dealing with, what's the best way to get through to him?
Well, assuming he's acting in good faith. So we'll assume that in the first place. I think you're going to have a hard problem because there's a thing called audience capture that I'm sure you're aware of, where I think he's kind of pretty well captured by a specific audience. But assuming, you know, he's markets himself as like an orthodox Marxist. So if you confront the fact that his positions aren't very dialectical and they're in fact reactionary, I think that would be a good tactic. I think if he uses the term woke or like woke mob, like we use jokingly, I think you should have him definitely define his terms explicitly.
Yeah.
And then like if he pulls up the whole like the turf argument thing, like make him be specific about those because when you get into the specifics of a lot of the turf arguments, you find that they're not based on reality. That would be my best advice for you. I worry that his audience captures kind of made him go too far, but maybe you can bring him back a little bit, man.
I would agree. You know, audience capture is the weirdest fucking thing. It was so. I don't know if this is just me, but I basically don't care about the opinions of people that like I don't respect.
Sure.
Unless they can fuck with me. And so if you can fuck with me in some material way, I'm going to give a shit about what you think about me, you know, because that will inform, you know, so like if you're my boss or my client or you're whatever, or some artist that I have to work with, like, you know, that's important.
Yeah.
But as far as like fucking randos on the internet,
yeah,
like, I just don't give a fuck.
That's a good philosophy. Like that more people should adopt that philosophy.
I hope so. I wish more people would. Like that was the most annoying thing in the debate I had with Alex Stein.
Yeah.
Where he was sitting there like, you know, trying to appeal to the audience. And he's like, look, type L if you think Brett took an L here. And I'm like, what the fuck do you think I give a shit what these people think?
I didn't know who he was until you had that debate with him. And then I saw that somebody put him on a cable channel. And I've never been happier that I don't have cable in my life.
It was Tucker Carlson.
Was it really?
Yeah. Who also put that Jackson Hinkle guy on, which is a friend of Haas's. Yeah. Carlson, just fucking.
He really likes this girl named Erica.
What, really?
This is a Nazi joke.
Oh, it's a Nazi.
The Erica is a Nazi march.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Bobby.
It's all good, bro. That was an obscure joke. That was preaching.
That's wow. I've actually fucking studied fascism. I have no idea what that was. So, like, I know about like Horst Wessel Lied.
Yeah. Well, Erica's the one that you usually hear in the movies.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so far removed from popular culture. It was really funny because like I will on Modern Day Debate, I will pitch James debates that I think are going to be good. One of the ones that I've wanted to do for a really long time is just debate the state. And whether the state, I wanted to do that against like fucking Destiny or something. Though he hasn't been responding to my messages lately. So
I'll have that conversation with you sometime if you want, because I'm a sock down. I'd like to actually have a conversation about it.
Oh, that's a fucking awesome. Yeah, let's totally do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've wanted to debate whether the state is good or not.
Sure.
Whether we should have an organization like anyway. And James is like, nobody's going to care about that. And then like he pulled up a debate, which was about that one fucking, what's the guy's name? He's bald and he got banned from YouTube recently. He was a cage fighter.
Oh, Tate.
Yeah. I had never fucking heard of Tate before this. And like, James is like, should Andrew Tate have been banned from YouTube? And I'm like, James, you are no longer allowed to tell me somebody's gonna fucking care about it.
Jesus. I only know who Tate is because there's a kid down here that I know, a kid, he's like 19, 20. And he told me that that I was gay for going down on women because Andrew Tate told him that or something on the internet. And that's how I found out who Tate was. And I'm like, bro, okay.
You're gay because you like pussy.
Yeah, this is what I said. I was like, what? And there was like a couple like older like boomer conservative types there, and they were like going off on him about that. They're like, what?
Dumbest fucking thing in the world. You're gay if you're pleasing a woman.
Yeah.
No, let's
Tate's bad topic.
Yeah. There's again like bad, and presumably he's a cage fighter because he's probably pretty good.
He was a really mediocre kickboxer.
Yeah, but I mean, still, even the most mediocre kick, like dude's a professional. He could probably kick the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But like, it is so weird to see people get suckered into this bullshit version of masculinity.
It is.
I've actually been thinking about like doing some kind of blogging about like masculinity and men's issues. Sort of follow up on that last because I wrote an article for the site called Greed Media, which is no longer available for some reason. I'm not quite sure why.
Probably greed.
Say what?
Probably something to do with greed.
Quite possibly. But I wrote this, it was called like Why the Alt-Right Fails at Masculinity.
Yeah.
And it got shared so much it crashed the site. And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, that did pretty well. So I sort of did a video a while back when I was starting off, but lately I've been following QAnon Anonymous. They have this sister podcast done by some of the people that run it called Man Clan. It's had like 2 or 3 episodes. And the more I look at it, the more I'm like, I feel like, okay, so at this point in my life, I'm nearly 40 years old.
Yeah.
I've done the shit you're supposed to do as a man. I fought people, lived in the woods, ate meat, fathered a masculine child, and I like to think I'm fairly well adjusted. No, I'm completely insane. But
crush your enemies, see them driven before you.
Yeah, I'm completely insane. But I feel like it would potentially be of value to do like a series of podcasts where whoever, like where somewhat vaguely well-adjusted men actually talk about like the experience of being our gender, and try to have some advice for younger people, because it seems to me that those waters are just swimming with all these fucking shysters and monsters that teach these kids the dumbest shit that you could possibly teach someone.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a means of getting what they want. Do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I would do it. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So we'll figure this shit out, because I really want to do it. And like, what I will never forget, and I will probably come up with this. I also have a stream that I want to go into soon called "I Was Indoctrinated" by Christina Hoff Sommers, because I literally was.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, she came to my fucking high school. This is before.
Oh yeah, you told me about this. Yeah.
Yeah, like this is like fucking analog vlogging.
Before she was the den mother for 4chan. Yeah.
Yeah, for 4chan and Gamergate.
Jesus
but I just think it would be nice that like men who have actually successfully done masculinity to some extent.
Yeah.
Because fucking Tate and goddamn Ben Shapiro. No, they haven't.
Dude, I've been doing streams with you sometimes where I'm literally like reloading rifle rounds as we're talking about this.
Yeah, you're smoking cigarettes, reloading rifle rounds. We're talking about fucking martial arts in the woods and shit.
Yeah.
You know, because again, like, people get suckered into this and they begin acting in bad faith. And the reason they're acting in bad faith is they are modeling a version of masculinity that they saw on the fucking TV, which pisses me off. Not just because that's dumb and vapid. And not even just because it's often harmful. But because, god damn it, you are being such a fucking sheep. You are letting other men tell you what masculinity is. You're not searching inside yourself. You're trying to mold yourself in their idea. And the only reason you are even you've even been exposed to this idea is because the fucking mass media decided that they could make a buck off of it.
Can you imagine what Nietzsche would say about this?
Oh, he'd be so pissed.
To be fair, he'd be pissed about almost everything, but yeah.
I mean, that was his entire life.
Yeah, he's just an angry guy. You should watch the play. I know we're coming up on time, but you should also watch the play Nietzsche Wept. Are you familiar with this one?
No, that sounds awesome though.
It's Nietzsche being psychoanalyzed by Carl Jung. And yeah, Lou Selme like gets Carl Jung to go like give Nietzsche therapy, and like Nietzsche Nietzsche's Carl Jung while Carl Jung tries to do Jungian analysis on Nietzsche.
That's badass. I should definitely watch that. Yeah, I've always kind of liked Nietzsche, like the real Nietzsche, not the pop culture one.
Yeah.
Because I wrote a paper on Nietzsche for my college, like for one of my classes, and I had never read Nietzsche. And it was very, and my teacher was like, okay, this is very well written. You haven't read a word of Nietzsche.
Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, kid.
No fucking clue what you're talking. I was contrasting Nietzsche with Oscar Wilde, actually.
Well, you probably read Oscar Wilde, so you got probably a 50.
Yeah, I did. Yes. I did read Oscar Wilde. It was over the importance of being earnest, actually. I was comparing that with the pop culture idea of the Ubermensch.
Yeah.
God, I was a nerd.
I'm always frank and earnest with women, and in Orlando I'm frank, in Jacksonville I'm earnest.
Boom.
Good.
Yeah, I would like to do that, but yeah, I mean, like one of the most famous, North to Maine, my probably most famous play at this point. Like there's a monologue right at like 50% that references Nietzsche's philosophy of aestheticism, as in living your life as a work of art. And because I actually went and read Nietzsche after I got reprimanded.
After you got the hint, like
and like I remember I had that in my play, and I wanted to cut it. I was in I was talking to my director and said, Eric Parnas, great guy, married me and my wife, actually did it for free, which was badass. Because it was an out-of-state wedding. Like it was a destination wedding. Wait, you're backstage again, Bobby?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, you're not. Oh, sorry.
You probably just got my Facebook message.
Oh shit! No, I just got another message. Oh shit!
Did he show up? Did he show up? Have we been doing this stream the whole time? That
he's streaming now.
Oh, did he stream?
Somebody just sent it to me, and it was just.
Oh, is he stream sniping you?
He just sent it to me, and he was just like, he straight up just chickened out. Infrared. I'm so, dude. I will be kind. I swear. I won't bring out my claws. Oh shit.
I told you that thing in the DM.
Hang on, I'm
I'm
sending this to my dude. Dude, I just read this in real time. You know what? I should not be surprised. I should not be surprised because the exact same fucking thing happened with the debate we were going to do with Stefan Molyneux.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
oh,
with the
I'm
eggs.
sorry. It has. If you wind up watching this, and I know I've been a little, not as not as harsh with you as Bobby has been, but I swear to you, I will actually like have a real discussion with you if you want to on this subject. You start screaming. Obviously, I'm going to make fun of you, but like this is actually something that I am excited to talk about. So I would like to do that, and I also think that you are ridiculously wrong with regard to the trans thing you did like 2 days ago with gay Hitler. As funny as gay Hitler is, like kudos on the image. Though I'm wondering if that's why he got banned from Twitter now. But like, yeah, dude, we should talk. I'm just saying that, and I swear to God, I will be good faith.
I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm just sipping on this Japanese whiskey.
Yeah. Before we go, by the way, might have fallen in love with Peterson if not for dude. Me too.
Good for you.
Yeah. Good for your grandfather, first off, but also, yeah, dude. So Peterson's so fucking annoying to listen to now that I'm.
Have you seen his book of poetry?
Peterson did a book of poetry.
You and I are going on a stream, and we're gonna read some of his poetry. It's the ABCs, but it's all about horrific shit happening to kids.
Oh my God. Okay, yes, Bobby, we're doing that.
Yeah.
This is like that whole bread tube thing where you have to do a video that's critical of Jordan Peterson, and I have avoided it for the most part because, like,
what about his song?
Oh, fuck you, Bobby.
No, he wrote a diss song. He wrote a diss song to Justin Trudeau, and it's like it's Darger-esque, bro. Like it's weird.
Okay, this is exactly what we're doing. This is like my thing. I was put on this earth to critique Jordan Peterson's fucking poetry. Jesus Christ. Okay, so for anyone who stayed through this entire stream to the end, I think this is the most epic, like, Brenton Lengel content that you guys have come upon at this point. The simultaneous discovery that I was chickened out. And then immediately finding out that Jordan fucking Peterson wrote poetry and a song.
Yeah.
And a diss track at Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's like anti-music.
Okay, we're doing this. We're doing a stream. We're doing a fucking series on this.
Okay.
But to answer Jemt, okay, hang on. Oh, this is good and really sweet.
Cool.
I grew up without a male figure in my life until I bonded with my grandfather and learned what a man was. My grandfather was a big, tall Union guy who wore all black and was the opposite of toxic masculinity. Thank you.
That's basically what happened to me too, man. Like I feel you on that one. Yeah.
This is good. My grandfather sucked. Like on both sides of the family. Both of them were yeah.
My grandfather, one of the best pieces of advice he gave me was Robert. He's from Kerry, Ireland. He's like, Robert, if you shake hands with he sounds like Obama when I do an impression. He said he told me if I shake hands with a policeman, it takes 6 weeks to get the stench off.
Good for him. Yeah, no, I never knew my grandfather on my mother's side. He was fun fact though, I did not know this. I would have been good because I was rejected from Columbia twice. Yeah. I'm glad because I'd be 60 grand in debt. if
60.
I'd been accepted. At least, probably 80. I mean, it's the fucking Ivy League
Yeah.
in New York.
280, bro.
Yeah, but no, I was actually almost accepted into the Columbia Theater program, but I made the mistake of spending a lot of the interview talking about making sure that I would have time to do professional theater.
Yeah.
And making sure that it would work with my job. Which, yeah, of course you're not going to get into the fucking program there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm a Columbia legacy through my grandfather on my mother's side, who was a total fucking wasp kind of. Actually, now that I think about it, he was based. Yeah. Okay, so my grandfather on my mother's side was basically Don Draper, which I'm suddenly realizing may explain quite a lot about me because I never knew him and he abandoned the family and left my grandmother to raise 3 kids in Levittown.
Oof.
Yeah. And then my grandfather on my father's side, he was around, but we never really heavily connected. I was really like, I mean, both of my dad's parents kept me at arm's length. And we had a very complicated relationship. They weren't bad people, and they're apparently, according to my dad and several friends, like my grandfather, he was very well respected within the community and stuff and used to like hold court. But I always had a complicated relationship with him because my mother had a complicated relationship with both of them. Ironically, now that I think about it, actually traditional gender roles fucked with shit.
Yeah.
Because so my dad married my mom, and my mom, people meet my mom and they're just like, oh God, Brent, your mother. And they sometimes they mean it in a good way, sometimes they mean it in a bad way. But my mom is very much a type A personality. And so she's actually the one who introduced me to Buddhism, even though she doesn't practice it. She got me both of my Buddhas. Sorry, I have an invisible one because it's jade. But this one she got in like a cultural exchange program, and I used this in Sokagake to make a point about karma and like what karma actually was and how the karmic benefit of my mother engaging in cross-cultural, connection was what brought this statue to me, which is, by the way, this is Buddha. He's not even really a Buddha. He's a Chinese figure that was associated with Maitreya, the Buddha of the future. This made its way to me as a child, and I played with it growing up. And I think having this guy around, you rub his belly for good luck. Having this guy around when I was growing up, I think set me into a position where when I needed it, I was ready to become a Buddhist. So yeah. I was just want to fail another. Beautiful, Chase. Thank you.
I was so humiliated for him when I saw that. Like,
the women don't have well, and again, no, he had this whole famous thing where it was like he doesn't want to go down on women.
No, does he? It's another one.
Yeah, I've really got to say, young men, YouTube skews young. Come here.
Yeah.
Come here. Let's talk about this for a second. Men are supposed to like pussy.
Yeah. Well, straight men.
Straight men are. Yeah. Thank you for correcting my hetero. The point is here, you Canceled. Should want to please your partner in sex, because obviously, if you are in a position where you're just looking to extract something from the relationship, that is not a good, that doesn't fucking work for capitalists. It's not going to work for lovers.
Yeah. No.
Oh, fuck me. I really hope that there was just a mistake. But
he had to double down on it. That's his problem, though. Like,
yeah. He doubled down on not diving in.
Oh no, on the orifices question.
Oh yeah. Wait. He doesn't realize there are 3?
Oh, he does now, but he had to like double down at the time that he's like, no, it's 2. It's 2. I wasn't wrong.
Oh my God.
because I saw that.
You heard what he did with the fucking Russians, right?
No.
So he said in a debate with Destiny, he was like, if Russia fails to take Kyiv, that will be a defeat. And that's not exactly what he said, but that was the content of it.
Right.
And Destiny confronted him with it on another stream, and he was like, I didn't say that. And so Destiny's like, okay, get the fucking video. And because Destiny's got a million fucking sycophants.
Yeah, then it's like Joe Rogan. Jamie, get the video.
Yeah, so he goes and gets the video, and he plays it, and Haas absolutely says that. And then he was like, well, they never wanted Kyiv.
It was all a feint. Yeah.
It was never part of the Russian battle plan. Jeez. Like, okay, I'm fine. There's a level of audaciousness at that point that I can respect, but Jesus Christ, man.
And I know we're going up on time, but like, it annoys me so much as a war nerd and somebody who actually studies military science that like, there's so many commentators that just don't know what they're talking about.
I'm just glad we're friends because you've been really helpful with analysis on that. All right, so Bobby, we are at the end here. We've laughed.
Yeah,
we've cried. We've talked about we've had our awesome commentary from the chat. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, hey guys.
I like our chat is classy.
Yeah. Very.
Yeah, not like the fucking peanut gallery on Modern Day Debate. I appreciate it. I appreciate every one of you.
Peon gallery on Modern Day Debate, man.
Yeah. Oh. Well, what I loved what you said after one of the debates was like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about your opinion because I've seen who you cheer.
Yeah, it's the Rick and Morty joke. Yeah, yeah. It's like what I don't care about your booze. I've seen what makes you cheer. Yeah.
It's
like, fuck off.
That was what it was. Yeah.
It's a great line.
Yeah. So anyway, Bobby, what do you have? Plug your pluggables.
I'm Mustache Bob 2 on Twitter. If you're Mustache Bob 1, find me. We're gonna meet in New York because there can be only one. I'm Mustache Mafia on YouTube. Hopefully this month I'll be getting some commentary out. My keyboard on my primary computer, the J, M, N, and P keys decided to stop working. So I've been a little upset. So I had to buy a new top case, and hopefully that gets fixed Monday. Coming up, I'll be doing a Who is the Wagner Group discussion. I want to go down the results of the midterm elections. Hopefully I have a guest lined up for that. I'd also like to discuss with somebody Cyberpunk Edge Runners. So I don't know if you've seen that or if you're going to watch it.
I've started watching it.
Yeah. There's a parent moment in the first one.
We should also talk about the Rings of Power. Have you been watching it?
Oh yeah, I watched the whole thing. I actually lost a Toblerone on a bet because I did not think that the one guy was Sauron.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that. I have no idea who the one guy is, Sauron, so we'll figure that out.
Oh, you not finished it?
I've literally just watched the first episode. It's actually pretty good.
Okay.
I hope it stays good.
It does.
Fucking great.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes watching a show like I really want it to be good.
Yeah.
And I can usually tell within the first about 10 minutes if I'm watching something that's worth a damn or not.
Somebody's Sauron, and I want to know who you think it is. But
I will. Well, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Elrond, right? It's Elrond.
That's the. Do you think? Oh, real quick. Do you think there's vet bro culture in Middle Earth? Do you think like somebody in Gondor is selling like really shitty T-shirts and going like, "Were you even at the Black Gate, bro?" Like, do you think...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like, by the way, I'm just gonna point this out. The Lord of the Rings is basically a through hike.
Yeah, it kind of is, yeah.
It is 3 books with people walking to a fucking mountain.
Yeah. There's a great Band of Brothers meme with Lieutenant Spears doing the run with the Tommy gun. It's like Lord of the Rings if Lieutenant Spears wasn't in the books like that thin. Anyway, I'll let you end the podcast. So
all right. Cool. So you guys, you can follow me here. I suck at asking people to hit like and subscribe. So hit like and subscribe, I guess. We are growing slowly. When I put more effort into growing, I assume that we'll hit some YouTube goals or whatever. But in the meantime, where my attention is really going right now is writing and creating amazing fucking comics. And if I may say myself, I'm going to launch a Kickstarter soon for Darude number 2.
Yeah.
And Darude number 2, it's really fucking good. Like you will like it. It's and features, as I said before, fucking Nestor Makhno.
Did you put the line in yet?
Oh, that will be in.
Okay.
That have a piece of apple pie.
Yeah.
We have not gotten to automatic fire yet. This is based around Darude's meeting with Nestor Makhno in France.
Dope.
It's that and him sneaking back into Spain. So it's kind of it's an important chapter. It's fucking epic, and we will actually be raising money for civilian relief efforts in Ukraine. So the people who have been injured by these wars, who, you know, like, it was very important to me. I know, Bobby, you mentioned that there's like a charity where you can pay to have something inscribed on a shell.
Yeah, but I would donate to the International Red Cross before I did that personally.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. It was very important to me that none of the, most ironically, because the actual meeting, a big theme in it is anarchists not having the weapons they need. But it was very important to me that what people donated go to humanitarian aid, not to something that's going to kill someone. Other people can do that.
Yeah.
But no, this is specifically about helping civilians who have been displaced and injured by this war. 30% of your pledge is going to go to 2 major Ukrainian charities. One is actually Razom for Ukraine. I'll tell you what the other one is as soon as I get a 100% that they're behind it. But yeah, they're both really fucking excited about a book about Nestor Makhno, and I'm looking to get the book translated into Ukrainian as well.
Nice.
So yeah, I have a feeling this Kickstarter is going to be really big, and you guys will want to be in on the ground floor for that. So for me to all of you, this is Brenton Lengel, broadcasting from my YouTube channel that I sometimes call Insurrection with Brenton Lengel. I have somewhat embraced, by the way, the handle of the Friendly Anarchist, because YouTube gave me the ability to set that up. And so now if you type in like the Friendly Anarchist or Friendly Anarchist or some shit like that, you will get my channel.
I don't know how your algorithms work, you kids.
God, I fucking suck at YouTube. And the thing is, I don't want to be good.
Yeah, what?
There's more important shit in the world than social media.
Write a book, How to Succeed at YouTube and Why You Shouldn't Want to.
Oh, fuck. That will be a New York Times bestseller, Bobby. If I ever get up off my ass and write that, as opposed to the fucking Darude story and all the other shit, that's a really fucking good idea. That was similar. Somebody told me, like, they were like, right at the beginning of this conflict, they're like, dude, you got to write a comic about Zelensky. And I'm like,
why?
Well, you'll make a shit ton of money, is what they told me.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm like, yeah, but I just don't care.
There's already a comedy series that he starred in. Like, I think market saturation would get you.
Well, like, I think especially writing about Darude and Nestor Makhno, it's kind of on brand for me to a certain extent. Though I don't like the idea of being an anarchist writing something that lionizes a president. I kind of feel like that is very off-brand for me.
A little bit.
Yeah, and also just like, I just don't care.
Well, that'll do it.
Like, I can't express, like, it's not like I have antipathy for the man. I'm glad that he stayed in the country and continued to fight and has been kind of a figurehead for this war. But I don't know. It just does not appeal to me in any way, shape, or form. I don't know why. So if I was smarter, I probably should. I probably would. I probably should. But I didn't fucking become an artist to make money anyway, so fuck it. I'm going to be talking about fucking Nestor Makhno and Darude and, you know, these forgotten people within history who are, in fact, some of the greatest human beings to ever live. All right. Well, thank you guys very much. This has been Brenton Lengel. There's Bobby. You can probably clip that, and when I eventually sell out and do a Zelensky comic, you can fucking hold that up on me, and I'll be like, yeah, sorry. They drove a dump truck of money up to my house. I'm not made of stone.
They gave you a T-72 that they captured from the Russians.
That'd be pretty fucking cool. Yeah. Who in the neighborhood's gonna mess with me if I got a T-72, huh?
Somebody with an Abrams.
Fuck. Okay, we're ending the stream on that. Thank you guys. This has been Insurrection with Brenton Lengel, special Haas didn't debate me tonight edition, and I am sad about that.
Debate him, bro.
Debate him. Debate me. You'll find that I am a master debater. I will teach you what baiting is all about.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm lighting my cigar.
You know what was also really funny was the on the last stream, the one that like I was just like watching and I was just like, Jesus Christ, can I even have a conversation with this person? Mm-hmm. He's saying on there that like nobody will debate him.
Go first. That's never true.
Yeah, it's never fucking true. Okay, but Haas, I will debate you. I swear to God. And if you're not a dick, if I can have a real conversation with you, I absolutely will. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope that if you see this, you are looking forward to the same thing. Because like I said, I think you're very wrong about a lot of shit, but we've all been wrong about shit before, and it will be no different. I would like to further the dialectic by having this conversation with you. Thank you very much. Insurrection with Brenton Lengel signing off.